Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Olympus Smite League. We've got a Sparta division matchup coming your way today between the Royal Jesters and the crew. And to bring you all that action, I am Dr. Shrew, joined today by Phoenix with Soulslaw on the cast, or on the production, excuse me, and as we get ready to head into picks and bans. How you feeling going into this one, Phoenix?
I'm feeling great. I see some names that I already know, including Evan on your left-hand side with Royal Jesters, as well as Thoughtman Jones and Physics DZN. These are a lot of the really strong players in this community. So I would expect to see a lot of big plays from them. On the side of the crew, though, I do expect to see kind of counterplay. We see Volg over there in the solo lane, as well as Cosmic Vibes in the middle lane. Very strong players from both teams here.
100%. This should be a very interesting matchup. The Jesters currently undefeated 3-0 so far in this season, while the crew only dropped one set. They're 2-1, and picks and bans are going rather quickly at the moment. We have Thor, Kali, and Jormungandr taken away by the Jesters, while on the other side, the crew so far have taken away the Ravana and the Marticarus. Everything fairly standard across the board, especially once you add that Baba Yaga.
Very typical. The only like non-typical pick right here would be, sorry, excuse me, ban would be the Jormungandr. We don't see that as often, but it can be very strong, especially in the current meta, just due to the fact of how much space can be created by Jormungandr, but also with some of the newer items that when you apply CC and these types of things, which is exactly what Jormungandr does with the trimmer, as well as the big old snake going underneath the ground and coming back out, knocking people up, can really apply a lot of good passives from some cool items in the game right now. But Hachiman, great first pick here.
Yeah, Hachiman, even after the nerfs he got, still just so strong in that dual lane. It's so hard to box him regardless of who you are across the way. So very strong first pick overall to give to Thokman Jones over there in the dual lane.
TMJ can rock that Hachiman like no one else sometimes. He's shown it in multiple leagues and especially in the OSL in previous weeks. So, might be a mistake here by the crew to give him Hachiman, but will counter it directly with the Ganesha. Ganesha brings a lot of control to a Hachiman in the early game as well as in the late game with Dharmic Pillars.
And they are hovering and on her to pair up with that Ganesh in the dual lane. They will decide to lock it in. And on her brings quite a bit of control as well with that impale and the sands on his pillar to slow people down. Athena's the hover for the Jesters, though it looks like both of these teams wanting to prioritize that dual lane above all else. Is there one you're kind of favoring just based on pick alone so far?
I'm going to have to go ahead and favor an Athena Hachiman lane. That's a really dirty combo, especially in the early game. If you can get someone caught out in a bad position, caught between minions, there's a pool, a taunt ready for you, as well as a stun. If Hachiman can dash through properly, and they're going to add a Discordia to that fixture, whew, that's going to be a great team fight for at least the dual lane, as well as encompassing into the mid lane. A lot of CC on Jesters.
A lot of CC indeed. Those strifes could come into play, but the damage that's coming out of the crew is their answer back. Sun Wukong has a fair amount of CC in the kit, depending on what form you decide to take in that 72 transformations, but he just brings so much lane pressure to that solo lane, so much damage with the rotations that could definitely be impactful for Volk.
I love the Sun Wukong pick, and I love the counter immediately into the tier ban as well for the crew. It's a smart idea because that's one of the only gods that can actually deal with a Sun Wukong, and removing that from the Jesters is a very smart choice and will allow for Sun Wukong to be a little bit more free roaming as well as a little more free damaging. You can go ahead and get that damage out quite easy, and just with slapping that stick on the ground every single couple of seconds, it creates a lot of chaos for a team that does not know how to deal with it properly. I don't know if that's Royal Gestures because I think they know the answer to Sun Wukong, but we'll have to see as they begin to execute this, at least in the solo lane.
It's Achilles, the next band for the crew, and the Ra, the first of the second phase for the Jesters. My eyes immediately go to their second band, the Kronos, getting taken off the board here. It seems like you might be similar to me. What does this Kronos ban mean? Why did they ban that away?
I can tell you it's not Cosmic Vibes pick. I'm guessing it's going to have to be a Claimsy pick. That would make the most sense to at least me, that they're banning out a carry on the side of the crew. That might be a pick for them. If it's not, though, it could just be that they don't want any countering strong CC from the ADC on the opposing side. And with an answering Merlin, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah, Merlin brings a lot to this crew team, and it's just CC doesn't matter if everybody's dead. Not that there isn't CC on the side of the crew, but the damage coming out from this team just seems overwhelming at the moment. Merlin just gets to press more buttons than most gods in the game. I think maybe only Tiamat might have more to be able to press and do damage with. So it's just so hard to stand up to a Merlin once he gets to that late game.
Damage is the name of the game for the crew right now, and CC is the name for Royal Jesters. Which one wins? I would probably say in this situation more CC. By the way, that's a pluck. That is a pluck Sobek coming out, and
Wow.
my goodness, you need one item. One item will counter the entirety of Royal Jesters right now. Can you say the item name? Do you know what it is?
Gotta be beads
Gotta
or
be
mad
beads.
guys.
It's Mad Guys and beads, but yes, anything with CC immunity, I'm buying it. I'm buying two of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if this dodge E gets locked in, that's even more beads pressure, even more CC. Uh, This is just, they are looking for setup upon setup and hoping that Thokman Jones and the Hachiman and Evan on the Discordia can get the job done with the damage.
If I'm Corbin on this Ganesha right now, I'm buying heroism. I'm buying heroism
Yeah,
100%
yeah,
because I don't say that typically. I typically say for sure go the heavier, tankier items instead of heroism that just is good for its passive, really. But in this situation, man, if someone's gonna get yanked out of someone's face every 2 seconds, this is the best heroism game in their life. You pick it up against Thor all the time, but against Daji, Beck, Athena, and Hachiman, ugh, including Discordia, there's no reason not to get heroes in this game, as well as beads. More damage though, just coming out for Bakasera in this situation. Sheesh.
yeah. It seems like two very different opposing mindsets between the Jesters and the crew right now with how they want to play this game. it- as we wait to see if the Bakasura gets locked in, it will be for the crew, so that just solidifies the damage comp. This Athena and Sobek both kind of generally seen as the support, but can flex around. Is there one you'd rather see given to physics in the solo lane?
I'd rather see physics with the Beck. The Beck feels really good in Soul Lane right now. I think it's a lot better as well than Athena in the Soul Lane. I've seen Athena in jungle do really well,
Hmm.
but in the Soul Lane, as a Soul Laner myself, I would not really like to have an Athena there. I'd rather have the Beck because it just you can displace a Soul Laner into your tower in the early part of the game so easily with the pluck and then the knockup as well. And if you're trying to fight a Sun Wukong who's trying to slow you down and trying to stun you, you can just go ahead and tail whip that and get out of the way. It's a great thing to be a Beck against a Wukong right now. And going underneath the ground, going underneath the Nile is a beautiful thing as a Beck as well, just to get out of all of the CC that the opposing team has, which is not much on the crew right now.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the Sobek would fit very well in the hands of physics. Now that we can see the full 5-man draft on either side, it's CC versus damage. Who are you taking to get the win here in game one?
I gotta go for some of my boys over on the Royal Jesters. I think that this team, I know Evan's Discordia is very strong, something that he likes to pick in the pocket sometimes, not like a prime pick for him, but a pocket pick for sure that can come out during these types of situations where he's surrounded by people that can set him up. That's his team. That's his team's name right now is Discordia setup. That golden apple is going to land on at least 3 heads every single ultimate, it feels like.
Yeah, that could be so much damage going through if the Jesters can get that CC right, but it's going to take a lot of execution. This is not, we you can talk to the end of the time about how much CC this comp has, but if you can't land it correctly, it's just not going to work out, and the damage of the crew might be, overwhelming. But there's only one way to find out, and it's to hop into game one here between the Jesters and the crew and find out who is going to get the win as we get a quick pause at the beginning, but that just gives us time to talk about some of the builds, go over to see where these players are going to take things. Is there anything that kind of jumps out to you as interesting or noteworthy?
The Ganesha listened to me. Cosmic Vibes and that team, Corbin, listened to me and got the benevolence, which means they're probably going to go towards the heroism here. The smartest decision I've seen from a team as of right now is doing that because that's exactly what you have to do. Expect to see some Magi's Blessing earlier. And the only unwise choice I see, though, Arrow having Blink instead of having beads is going to be a problem as soon as any member of this team hits 5.
Yeah, definitely going to be dangerous for Arrow on this Bakasura if he doesn't have any form of CC immunity in the kit, doesn't have the beads to see how he positions around the fights to figure that out. My eyes are also drawn to Volg's first item choice following the blue stone. It's going to be the tier 1 of the earrings. Going to give that MP5, not really much power on the back of it, but I guess is that enough when you're against a guardian?
Yes. So I think that what's going to happen here is that they're not going to finish that item, or if they do, it's for sure going to be Manticore Spikes. That is the best item on that tree for a Soul Winner right now, as well as it supplies some magical protections as well as some physical protections. It's a great way to cover all of your bases in a first item. Typically, I would see a Sun Wukong either go Gladiator Shield first item or Soul Eater first item, correct? That would be like the
Mhm.
most logical thing to do in all reasonability. But in the situation I'm against a mage, especially one that's building conduit gym on Beck, you're gonna want to have
Yeah.
early magical protection on, especially because you're building Bluestone Pendant. You're not building a Warrior's Axe. You're not building Warding Sigil. You're not building even Tainted Steel, which might have actually been a pretty good choice for some Wukong here. But Bluestone is just the regular item to get.
Definitely a good item pickup. Should work out for him just to give him some of that sustain in the lane. Cutting over to the mid lane as Cosmic Vibes makes his way back into the lobby. It's the same builds on either side, at least at the beginning here. Sansa time into the Lost Artifact. Do you imagine they'll both continue to go the same route?
I think they'll both end up going for Chiron's coin. That would make the most sense. Actually, the next upcoming god is going to be Chiron. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
funny enough.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, it's foreshadowing. It's a really strong first item right now. It's just like Book of Thoth used to be, in my opinion. It's very different. When you flip the coin, you get a different type of passive ability that it applies to you, whether it's a speed or the cooldown, whatever one it is. And it will then turn around. By the seventh turn, it gives you a lot of boosted damage. So that's what you want. That's more penetration, more damage is exactly what you can ask from a Book of Thoth, but it's not a Book of Thoth, it's actually a Chiron's coin. It works out really well for mages in mid lane, especially in the early game.
I definitely agree. It's a great item right now, currently in that mid lane. We're cutting over to the ADCs just to kind of round out. We've been to every other lane. Let's hop over to duo. It's the light blade start for Claimsy on the on her. Probably going into that Aussie, I would imagine a different take on the ADC build.
A little bit of a different take. I've seen it be done before just for these type of early game CC type of, team comps, which is exactly what Royal Jesters is by the T. And so I would expect to see the early Aussie just for earlier sustain because Dev Gloves does take about 10 minutes to get online, maybe up to about 15 minutes sometimes it takes to fully get it stacked to the full 50 stacks is exactly what it is. And if you can get that or on earlier on Dev Gloves, then go for it. But if you can't, go ahead and go for that Aussie. It's always a safe pick. We've seen all three and almost all four lifesteal items in the dual lane this season already. We see Bloodforge in the early part of the season. Then we
Hmm.
saw Dev Glove make its return. And now we're seeing Aussie kind of swindle in there and make its return as well as we see the unpause possibly coming back out and we can get this game going. And that's exactly what it is.
It is indeed. We've built this game up a lot. It's time to see how it actually plays out. Buffs should be spawning here relatively shortly. I suppose the only matchup we haven't quite talked about beyond the lack of beads is this jungle matchup. Both of these gods, at least to me, can get active in the early game, but it's that level 5 mark where they really start to make their impact. Who do you kind of favor in the jungle matchup?
Daji in the mid game is very strong, but in the early game matchup, Bakasura, if you can land a single base attack and hit that wonderful heavenly agility, or as you would call it, the shard, the heavenly shard, is you want to hit that as quickly as possible and then run at someone. If you can do that to a Daji, there's very little amount of escape that Daji has if she does not have a minion nearby her, especially a friendly minion is what she needs. She reminds me of Horus sometimes. So if Bakasura can find Daji alone in the jungle, then Bakasura should win the matchup unless she goes into powwow and somehow just survives. It'll be very rare if that happens though. But Regurgitate, just a stronger ultimate in general for the early game, but not as good in late game for team fights.
100% going to be interesting to see how Arrow can play the early game and if he can use his early game advantage to try and build up a lead over tangents on that Daji. As buffs do spawn and we see the clears from all of these members, dual lane I feel like is going to be, could be potentially see quite a bit of fireworks over here with how much kill potential someone like Athena Hachiman paired up together can have.
And speaking of potential, we have a potential for another pause here again, but we got a little bit more to talk about now because we already see that the dual lane is hitting it a bit earlier right now. So Royal Jesters, Flippin' Ninja 7 or FN7 and Thockman Jones are getting this lane a good amount faster than Corbin and Claimsy. But Claimsy DCing here, very unlucky in this situation, probably throwing basic attacks at the wall is what gave them the advantage here for Royal Jesters. Literally throwing basics at the
Yeah.
wall.
That is indeed what's happening. Unfortunate there. We're going to cut to a quick break so we can give the players a chance to fix the lobby issues and get us back into it. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Jesters versus the crew on the Olympus Smite League. And welcome back, everybody. We are back into the game in proper now between the Jesters and the crew. DC issues hopefully taken care of for the team members. A good strife in the early game. If Evan can continue to hit those as we get later into the game, that could be a big problem for the crew.
All the calls, if you're in Royal Jester's call right now, the call is going to be, if their beads are down, you better tell me. But this bead does not matter. Sheesh.
Evan just deleted First Blood, going immediately the way of the arrow on the Bakasura, even deals some damage onto Tangents on the way out. And you talked about it. You said this Bakasura had the better early game. And it seems like you were right.
I don't want to boast myself too much because this could get really ugly really fast if, as you said, Evan can keep landing those stuns, the stripes on to two targets at the same time. Yeah, it's going to be a rough situation. But yes, a great start for Arrow here and maybe another one.
He's not done yet. On to Tangents once again. Just a couple more autos is needed, but the Daji will be quick enough to make sure that Arrow doesn't go up 2-0 before we even reach the 2-minute mark.
Great jump in there from him as well. Landing the jump and getting the damage from the basics is something that many Bakasiras cannot do in this early game, but making a great rotation here to this shield buff.
He is indeed, makes it over here in time, and it's this Ganesh who's in a lot of trouble. Excuse me, the Athena of FN7 could be in a lot of trouble. Good knock up from the on her there, but it seems like they'll be safe enough for the moment. Already, though, we've seen these teams get fairly scrappy, all led by Arrow on the Bakasura.
And that's exactly what I did say, which is that if you can play this aggressively early game in the jungle, then you can take advantage of almost every single second that someone is not in the right position. I do like going over to the soul lane real quick because Physics is looking like he's kind of getting poked out by some Wukong. Volg looking strong here as of right now. But there are a good amount of heals on Sobek's kit that allows for him to sustain for much longer than a Sun Wukong, especially once they hit level 5.
Definitely not out of options is Physics, but he might be out of a blue buff if the crew have anything to say about it. They are already here on this rotation and eat minion. It's so hard to out-secure that blue buff invade successful for the side of the crew.
Yeah, and success is what they are doing right now. A great invade. And if you already have this pressure so early in the game, you can maintain that and run a game really quickly. But here's the thing about Royal Jester's team is that this level 5 is the pivotal point for them. They need to make a humongous rotation to one of the two lanes, get a big powwow off, combine it with an Athena wonderful, gloriful ultimate from the sky. There's a lot of words to explain exactly what Athena does in her kit. But if we can combine those two things along with a Discordia Apple, there's going to be 3 kills or 2 kills immediately. But that has to happen. Here we go. Level 5 already hit by the dual line.
Level 5 hit indeed, and it seems like they're wanting to get aggressive. Not quite level 5 for Claimsy on her yet, so he needs to be a little safer. But as everybody in the lobby save the on her is level 5, should start to see fireworks very soon from either team. Just some poking here in the dual lane. Where do you want to see these junglers make their rotations early now that they have these impactful ultimates?
The rotation needs to be in the dual lane. Let's go ahead and try to shut down Thockman Jones if I'm Arrow. Thockman Jones is a really strong ADC, one of the first picks in most other leagues. Evan the Gay Weeb actually was the first pick for the Royal Jesters in this league. So you have to make a really strong choice about who you want to select here as far as Arrow goes. But I think the selection should be the dual lane. And if Evan starts beating on Cosmic's head a little bit, then go ahead and go give some help to him. But it's not looking that way right now because Evan's behind by a level currently as we speak. Oh, it's with the 1 death especially.
Well, Arrow also has that Golden Blade online, which will make it so much easier for him to farm on that Bakasura and just kind of pull even further away if they're able to. It's like gonna rotate over and potentially look for a solo lane gank over here, but Sobek's so hard to actually lock down. Just rotating over to get a bit of farm instead. This Claimsy though, still only sitting on the light blade after that DC is a level behind. Not looking like the best start for the on her so far.
He'll come around to it, right? Once he picks up that Aussie. But guess who has to go up into powwow to save their own life is going to be American Tangents. Got 1 here though.
Does get 1, but just has to use it defensively and will back out there. Actual good secure there from Physics to make sure he gets that next blue buff, but the scrap in middle might continue a little bit. It's Ganesh of Corbin who's in a bit of trouble. The golden apple will end up landing after bouncing off the walls. Not too much damage off the back of it, but didn't think that one was gonna hit.
Ding 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 ding. It sounded like pinball, man. That's exactly what that was right there. It was so funny how it got caught right in between those 2 walls. Yeah, nothing there much for the kill, but a really weird little trade situation going on there. They wanted to attack, but they didn't want to attack, but then they did attack. And then landed the golden apple, doesn't do enough damage. But you see what's going on in Soul Lane right now, where these two are just hitting the thing, hitting the totem, and then hitting each other, but no damage is happening. It feels like their health bars are still completely full. It's because they're both just so sustain like gods. And this is what's going to keep happening. And as I said, that's the Manticore spike they're going to be going into. That's only the second phase of it. But I don't want to gank that lane at all unless I got kin size if I'm Bakasura especially.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be so hard to lock down either one of those solo laners with how tanky, sustainable, and mobile they can both be. As we see grouping over on the left side of the map, 3 members strong near this mid lane for the crew. Might look to do a little bit of poke damage. The engage from Corbin will start things off. This Athena is tanking, gets a good 2-man taunt. Merlin damage does a little bit more poke. It's not going to be enough to get the kill onto FN7 quite yet. But Cosmic Vibes doesn't seem to have too much fear, just charging forward on the Merlin.
Very comfortable god for Cosmic Vibes. Merlin is one of those favorite ones. As I said, Evan the Gay Weeb picking a pocket pick here, in my opinion, a pick that he has arisen through this season, not something that he's been playing forever. Cosmic Vibes coming off of a season of playing support in some other leagues and coming into this one and playing mid again, going back into his proper position. Forced up into the air is Volg, will come back down and get plucked.
And a rotation in from Arrow could mean that it's Physics that might be in trouble, but Volg not confident, not healthy enough to stay in and help his jungler try to get a pick onto the target we've already said is so hard to deal with on that Sobek. So going to be so hard to get any sort of kill on him. Shield buff getting looked at by both these teams here could lead to something. It looks like it will go the way of the Royal Jesters. Claimsy picking that one up. Or yeah, sorry, the crew picking that one up. Claims he did manage to steal that one.
Yeah, and the On Her needs it right now because, as you said, there are already 23 stacks on Devourer's gloves, and Aussie is just being built on Claimsy, aka the On Her. This is a situation where we might want to keep an eye on what kind of 1v1s are going to come out of that lane because these two are great brawlers. But speaking of duels, whew,
Merlin, without burn damage, forces up the powwow out of the Daji, who does pull in two, has the shell from FN7 to make sure that they're okay. But already Cosmic Vibes is swinging on the Merlin, and he did end up going that Charon's coin that you mentioned, that penetration already coming in key.
both of them going it, which is exactly what they need to be doing. When this season first started, I thought that penetration was gonna fade out a bit and go to more straight damage, like Soul Reaver or Rada Hootie, which has percent penetration on it, but it's not like a Magus or a Obsidian Shard or a Chiron's Coin in this situation, right? So I'm surprised to see that we're seeing so much penetration be focused again in this patch, but it works really well, especially with how tanky the meta is right now. And speak on that, you can just look at our soul lane, which is Sun Wukong versus a Sobek. When Sobek is in the game and actually a good god to play, you know that you're in a tank meta.
Yeah, he always just brings that exact type of playstyle, that exact type of meta whenever he is around. Looking at the gold, it's fairly even right now between these two teams. Just 900, slightly less than 1,000 in favor of the crew, which is not too much of a problem if you're the Royal Jesters. It's, you'd rather be in the lead, but it's not game breaking as there's an engage here onto Claimsy, dash over the wall, and he's on the run. He'll jump over the wall himself, but gets shot by the mounted archery. Will be able to safely gun into the tower, but those extended Eagle Eye autos out of Thokman do quite a bit of damage on the way out.
You can already see the cooking up what's going on here with Royal Jesters. If they can line that up in the proper fashion, then this will be a bad situation for the crew. They have to line it up though and get that CC out at the right time. You can't be powwowing at the same time as you're taunting, at the same time as you're trying to get Strife out with Discordia. That's a bad thing to do is when you stack your CC. If you want to stack your CC, you got to do it in the right order. Do one ability and then wait for the CC to be reduced on the person and then use it again and then use the other one. It's perfect whenever you can do that. And it shows, people make videos about it. Trelly makes videos about how much CC you can apply to one person and how long it takes. There's no tier in this game. There's no one that can lower the CC amount on any of the CC that Jesters can put out. So all you can do is buy Spirit Robe and pray.
Old Fury, the call here for the crew, excuse me, as the Jesters try to step up. The crew will take that one away. They just kind of showed up and burned it, and that's something we didn't really talk about on the desk, but the burn potential out of this crew squad is not something to be ignored.
Something that comes with having a lot of damage is coming a lot of burn potential, especially with Desert Fury out of On Her. You can just line something up and melt it, and that's exactly what he did. It's kind of like Anubis, big old laser coming out of the eyes. In this situation, it's coming out of On Her's hands in a very fast Fury, as we would call it. And I expect to see a bigger fight here in mid for this beacon. Speaking of a Fury, it's not a Fury at all. It's not a gold figure or anything like that, but it should be a big fight.
It should be indeed, will be up in the next 15 or so seconds. We've seen a lot of prioritization towards this objective since it came out in 10.6, and both the supports are here nonetheless fighting for vision control. Might see rotations here as it opens in just the next 5 seconds, but it's the Jesters who are the first on the scene, and it's only Corbin who's around to try and contest it. There are rotations coming in from the mid laner, but it seems like the crew are just going to give this first beacon up.
It's okay for them to do this at this point because they just got the Gold Fury as well as already had a 2K lead. A 900 gold lead in the gold figure. So pushing this even further is not a bad idea. Speaking of these jungles, though, we are seeing, I would have wished to have seen American Tangents do a couple more ganks in the dual lane, or maybe even in the mid lane, because the powwows have been mainly for her own life, or for American Tangents' own life to be secured. We probably want to see some big chains come out from her, and it's funny enough that I just said chains. What if Jesters, instead of picking the Athena, they picked an Ares? Imagine.
The beads pressure is already unreal. I can't imagine what an
Yeah.
Ares would feel like on the other side. This has been a relatively low kill game. Only one so far here, 13 minutes in. Seems like both teams might be comfortable moving towards that late game period as an attempted rotation by Arrow will back away for the time being. Is there a squad that you kind of think has a big advantage once we make it into the late game?
It's Royal Jesters for sure. The CC is going to have to turn on at some point. Five people being in the same area with so much CC, it's bound to connect in the right order at some point, right? But also on the other side, I will give it to the crew. I won't fence it. I will say that it is the Jesters that I hope for here that will be able to win these end of game team fights or mid game team fights. But on the side of the crew, I do expect to see some big blinks coming out of Sun Wukong as well as Bakasera, and securing their green buff is Flippin' Ninja 7 right now. I I pray for the crew, right? I pray for the crew that they can line up their damage in the right spots. And we have the game of gods and goddesses here, so there are plenty of gods to pray for if you are on the crew.
Very true indeed. It's going to be about target selection if you are the crew, as it looks like Pyromancer might have been looked at by the crew, but they'll decide to back up with the members of the Jesters nearby. Who do you feel like priority number one needs to be for the damage that the crew has on the side of the Jesters?
Get rid of Daji as fast as you can, and then you're going to go to the carries as quickly as possible. But Daji has to go. If you have a Daji survive for an extended fight, it's a really big problem. And speaking of an extended fight, they're dancing around this Pyromancer right now, and American Tangent is just standing here waiting for them to walk into it. But I don't think that's the idea that the crew has right now. I think they're looking for this Gold Fury again.
It looks like they are grouping towards that left side of the map. They'll get the oracles to make sure they have some vision. And we saw what happened last time they looked
Melt.
toward the Gold Fury. Yeah, it just was deleted by all the damage this crew squad has. So that's something the Jesters need to be aware of and be careful about as both junglers make their way over to this left lane. In claims he's the one in trouble again. He has the leap away, but it's not enough. Defender of Olympus will show up to make sure that it's Arrow who's in trouble as well. Thokman Jones with a double kill on to the Hachiman to kick things off for the Royal Jesters, their first 2 kills of the game.
The crew, do you want to open up the stream and start listening to me? Because in that situation, we need to be ganking Thokman Jones because he was going to be the problem from the beginning, and it's the easiest kill for Bakasira, but this Gold Fairy is being challenged by 2.
Karmic Pillars comes out, and the crew steal it away. They got it. The Merlin and the Ganesh are enough to get that Gold Fury. Corbin will die in trade, and it's a delayed triple kill for Thokman, but they just walked up and took it right away.
I was not expecting that. That's literally why I kept talking, was because that was such an unusual thing for a Ganesh to do, is just walk in. I've seen it before, of course, but I thought they were going to get off the Gold Fury and kill him, or the Ganesha was going to walk away because he was still half health, but instead, Dormant Pillars will end up stealing it. Will they do it here? No. Royal Jesters will stick with the Pyromancer.
They burned that one quick enough to make sure it goes their way. There was rotations from Claimsy that I thought maybe could have got it done, but it might be done onto Thokman instead. Arrow will get that kill, but he gets plucked underneath the tower, and American Tangents will get the return kill onto the jungler. Volg, his clone, is charging forward underneath that tier 2 tower, but his real Sun Wukong avatar will stay back for the time being, not wanting to get quite that aggressive. He will jump under and just get a little poke onto Evan. They're looking at this tier 1 tower though. It's just 16 minutes in. They'll get it around to half HP with a TP in from physics. They'll decide to back up and take what they've got.
If there is a tower to focus, it would for sure be the mid tower. The mid tower is always the priority and has been since season 0 of Smite, since alpha of Smite. If you can get the middle tower, you have access to 3 more of the enemy's buffs. That would be the enemy's speed buff, the enemy's green buff, as well as the enemy's red buff. And that's always been the truth. It's not always those 3 buffs in every single season, but strong choice here to try and push the mid and try to get an advantage in that lane. It also gives you access to the main objective right now, which is going to be the Pyromancer as well as the Gold Fury. If you have that mid tower down, you can push waves down that lane. So well done by the crew there to try to get some pressure in mid. Unlucky that the teleport was up from the Beck. Physics EZN did well there to teleport into mid to secure their own mid tower.
100%. And with that objective focused mindset that the crew seem to have with their burn damage, they've pulled their lead to around 3,000 here at the 17 or so minute mark as the junglers duke it out a little bit in mid, just damage testing each other. But that, 3,000, 2,300, that's not backbreaking if you're the Royal Jesters. And as you said, they have that late game capabilities. but it could be the beginning of a snowball for the crew, especially with the Stygian Beacon about to spawn once again.
Ooh, and a fight already breaking out here, but Arrow's gonna be able to jump out for the time being. But Stygian Beacon may be a problem for the crew, as that poke out was enough damage onto Bakasira to maybe scare him off.
It might as well be. You are correct. The crew are nearby this time for this beacon, but they're not quite stepping up yet. It's just this Ganesh who throws out the Dharmic pillars, but the Powwow is up. Can they grab anybody? Arrow, though, in the back line with the help of the On Her, does a lot of damage and forces so many people back, but it's low health bars for this Bakasura. Into the somersault cloud was Volk on the Sun Wukong, who's zoning away multiple members, and the beacon will go the way of the crew off the back of a clean engage wraparound from Arrow.
American Tangents did find himself in a really rough position there. It's not where you want to be. You want to be early powwowing as fast as possible. Get up in that air and then find yourself with the team. If you could, in this team, if you can burn beads, that's a win. That's like a dominant win in your way. But speaking of beads, there is a Magi's Blessing already on Ganesha. It was the second item picked up by him after the Gauntlet of Thebes. Makes perfect amount of sense. I expect to see that either be a revenge or the other relic that, the other, what's it called when it goes above that? A glyph that it allows to go to, which will allow for a teammate to also get a bubble. It's perfect for the team, and it's something that you dominantly, prominently need on the side of the crew to survive this game.
Yeah, it seems like Corbin is of the same mindset we are, that the CC coming out of the Jesters is just unreal. So focusing that out very quickly. Gold Fury has respawned, and we do see grouping over on this side of the map. The crew are the first ones here, but it looks like the Jesters are aware of it. We've spoken of the burn that the crew have. Do the Jesters have good objective play?
They do have okay. They don't have great secure, to be honest with you. There's no Fury, like I said, that Honor has, but there is the possibility of getting picks like they're looking to do right now.
That might be their goal indeed. Just who cares about how quickly you can burn an objective if the whole team is just dead on the other side because of all the setup and CC that you have? Seems like a little bit of poke was put onto Volk. He got that ultimate forced out and will back up. Bubble popped onto Corbin, which could come into play here in the near future. Pyromancer may be looking at getting snuck away, but both of these teams are playing so safe right now, not wanting to be the first one to make a slip up.
A slip up would cause a tremendous amount of damage to whichever team does it, because there are two large objectives up and then a really large one up in the Fire Giant. 20 minutes into this game, pulling a Fire Giant would be a bit questionable because cooldown times or death times are very short, but it could be a lot faster here because we already have a team fight breaking out in mid.
Ball glow, but his Cosmic Vibes getting dumped on underneath the tower. The Powwow will seal the deal. Can American Tangents find another one? Gets the bubble or the beads out of the Ganesh and is backing up, but the Dharmic Pillars does so much damage. Tangent, with little to no health left, will make it under the tower, and it's actually Corbin who's in trouble. Thokman will get another kill added to his tally, and all of a sudden it's 2 for none in favor of the Royal Jesters. They take away the Bastion, and they're immediately heading towards the Gold Fury.
That is the smartest decision I've ever seen in my life. Great choice by Royal Justice here to get those 2 picks and go get an objective. I would send one over here, which is exactly what they're doing. Physics DZN is walking over here to try and challenge the Pyromancer. Could go under right now if he wanted to possibly secure it, but instead will not be able to make it into range. Both going the opposite direction. Looking for a kill, though, are the crew. Back up right now. No problem there. Great trade there from the crew to go ahead and go for that Pyromancer. Smart call. I wish Physics was there a bit earlier to possibly challenge it, though. That would have been nice.
Yeah, it definitely could have been even better for the Jesters had they been able to sneak away both of those, but they do get the trade. And here in the early game, would you say the Gold Fury is worth more than the Pyromancer?
I would say yes. You're going to be collecting bombs, runic bombs in your inventory to not use them for quite a while, because most people don't use those until they get to the Phoenix. As you can see, there's one on both teams right now, and it's taking up the Sun Wukong's 1 spot, which means that he can no longer place wards until he drops that bomb or sells it for 33 gold. So he's not warding at all right now. And then on the other side, you have it on Athena. This makes a lot more sense because generally Athena's or supports in general will buy 2 normal wards or 1 sentry ward and a couple pots sometimes in this point in the game. Your pots are not as good to have, you want to have wards, and even nicer to have would be like red pots in your inventory. But in this situation, having a Rune Bond of support is much better, and that's the exact layout I would expect right there, which is, whoa, that's not the layout I would expect.
Think in and regurgitate from Arrow gets the Aegis out of Evan on that Discordia, so that extra layer of safety taken away, relic for relic traded out. No kill though on the back end. Something we haven't mentioned yet. Hawkman on this Hachiman. He's 4-1-1 right now, so it's 100% working for him. But he's got that Griffin Wing a little earlier in the build that I'm used to, but might have to hold that thought though as a fight breaks out on the Firemancer pit. Desert Fury channeled onto Physics, who's low but is safe enough on the way out, but the same cannot be said for FN7's Athena. That will drop to Cosmic Vibes, and all of a sudden, the crew are posturing like they want to take this Fire Giant. It is a little early, being only 23 minutes in, but they are starting to burn it down. The members of the Jesters are aware of it though, but there's good zones coming out so far from this crew team, and they will decide to leash it in favoring the fight instead. A dash in, and where did Tangents go? Thokman answers one back as the apple lands onto the Honor, has to use the Aegis, and it's retreating health and low health bars for the side of the Jesters. But they do get one return kill, which might just seal the deal for the crew not be able to pull the Fire Giant, is what I was going to say, but they still feel confident. They don't need a support. Stepping up, Fire Giant down to below half HP. They're burning it, but the blink in from Physics. Can he steal it away? He cannot. The Athena gets in there with him, but immediately dies. Thokman turns around one. Thokman turns around two. Can he find the third onto Volg? A couple more autos. He does. It's a triple kill for the Hachiman. They got the Fire Giant, but it's only on Cosmics.
Wow. Really well done by Thokman Jones and the rest of the Royal Jesters to go to the Fire Giant, even though they knew it was lost, to go ahead and clean up some of those kills. You called it before, which is this might not be the smartest play, and this might not be the smartest play from Thokman Jones, because there is a player or two here from the crew ready to chase him out and get revenge. Dark Pills will not land, and that's a back off for the crew right there. Really well done by the entirety of the Royal Jesters to go to that Fire Giant. But now, we're looking at this beacon.
Beacon fight is underway. There's so much CC and damage out of the Discordia, and Thokman will pick up another one before Physics joins them on the killings. And the Beacon will go the way of the Jesters. Assuredly, Tier 1 Tower will go the way of the Jesters, and they're looking for more at the same time. Physics stepping in to tank for the minions a little bit. The tower's melting quickly underneath the pressure from Thokman, and there are members of the crew nearby, so the Jesters will choose to back up. But they have gotten so much in the last few minutes and might look to add a Primal Fury to that list.
Gotta keep in mind when you see those graphs right there that the team that got the Fire Giant was the crew. that was them. It doesn't look like it, right? Where on that graph does it show them getting the Fire Giant? Because all I see is 4 little bumps going the way of the Royal Jesters. Once again, the crew will only take the trade of the wonderful looking Pyromancer. Fire Giant on no one's belt on the crew, and we got to keep our eyes. Once again, I told you since the beginning of this game, Thokman Jones is 9-1.
Jesus, absolutely crazy on the side of this Hachiman. He is just popping off right now. The Titans are going to spawn in his lane, maybe understanding how much of a god that he is, wanting to join him as they march down the lanes. Who do you see needs to be the one to try and deal with Thokman on this Hachiman?
There's one name that I can think of, and that would be Volg on the Sun Wukong. That's the only person that can deal with the Hachiman right now. Because if you regurgitate onto Thokman Jones on the Hachiman, if I was Hachiman, I would just get in the back of my horse and right away. Because regurgitate is such a big ultimate as far as if you land it on multiple targets, it's a really good ultimate. But if you land it on just a Hachiman, I'm just riding out. I'm just getting out of there. So it has to be the Sun Wukong, because the Sun Wukong has the chase ability for a Hachiman as well as the lockdown for a Hachiman. With the limited CC he has, it still is enough to slow down the basic attacks of a Hachiman and get the good kill on him. But we might have to see it right here, because this is a T2 getting pressured right now by Royal Jesters with a big old Titan.
It is indeed. An Arrow has a flank around the back. What's he going to be able to do with this positioning as the Titan starts to hit the tower? The crew are just going to give up this tier 2 tower for the time being, not wanting to die for it. They'll instead, with a blink in from Physics, a good silence saves a bunch of what could have been damage, and Arrow is spotted out, forced to back away. The Titan steps into the Phoenix line as the apple of the Discordia is off the mark. Palau, though, what can Tangent find as Dharmic Pillars will end up falling without finding too much? Into the backline goes Volg and Arrow. So much damage turning around. Arrow gets one, Arrow gets two, and he's looking for more, chasing deep here, but gets turned around by Evan on the Discordia. And now Volg taking quite a bit of damage as well, will be forced to back up. The bird still stands, and it's a successful defense for the crew.
Whew, what a great defense as well. Only lost about half of the Phoenix, not much whatsoever. And Dotman Jones still standing over here in the left lane saying, I'm going to try to poke out a little bit of Cosmic Vibes. If he can land maybe 3 of those Eagle's Eyes, he'll possibly even get a kill because of how much damage he's doing at this point. There's a thing that I'm saying about Royal Jesters, especially after seeing that push, which is we're holding on to ultimates for way too long. Because at the end of that fight, FN7 as well as Stockman Jones both had their ultimates when two of their teammates were already dead. Physics DZM was dead, as well as American Tangents were both already off of the map in the grayscale. We probably would have loved to see a earlier Thoughtman Jones ultimate come out, but I understand because of what I just said, which is that the only answer to the Bakasira that Thoughtman Jones has is to hop onto that horseback and get out of there. If he doesn't have that, then it's going to be a quick kill for the not crit chance Bakasira, the penetration-based Bakasira.
Yeah, that is a good point to make. Ultimate usage and timing, very key for a team that has so much setup and so much CC. You can't chain it together right, like you were talking about earlier. It makes it a lot harder for a comp like this to function. Fire Giant has respawned, and both teams once again will start to group on this side of the map, save Arrow, who pushes over to the left side. Do you think he has enough to get this Oni Fury on his own? Looks like he's coming back.
I don't think he wants to do that. I think he's probably going to rotate back over to this Fire Giant and try to do what he did in the left lane, which is do a little gankaroo, a little late game gankaroo. Try to get it behind Thoughtman Jones and Evan and possibly get a good pull. But here's the CC we're talking about, baby.
Volg takes a bit of poke off the back of that, and Fire Giant was at least pulled for a moment. Could have been a bit of a bait to try and pull the crew in and force them into the setup that this Royal Jesters squad has. Physics is the one on the front lines, as well as FN7 who dashes in, but it's a stun onto Physics, who's taking quite a bit of damage, but it's Volg who takes more damage. Dharmic Pillars comes out, and Bakasura is swinging through this fight, but he gets hit by the chain of the Palau. Gonna get pulled back in, but it's good peel from his team. Desert Fury does a lot of damage, and Arrow will follow up on it by getting a kill onto Physics, and out of nowhere, the crew, the ones with the aggressive positioning, even though it's the Jesters who wanted to take that fight originally.
Tell me whose ultimate is the only person that's still up, because for me, it's FN7 right now. We would have loved to see an ultimate probably onto Physics DZM because of how bad his position was right there. It might have got him out in that situation. So I think we need to be prioritizing our ultimates a little bit more on Jesters because you guys are winning this game. They're 13-8. They're doing well as far as gold goes, but this is a bad situation to be in because Fire Giant is already getting pulled and now it's enhanced.
It is indeed, and it's around half HP already. The Royal Jesters step up into the pit, though, and Volg is taking so much damage. Tangents dashes in and gets the kill onto the solo laner. Fire Giant still getting looked at, but claims he will get the kill onto Tangents in the backline. FM7 will return that kill immediately. A good taunt in for 2, and look at the damage coming out of Evan. Thockman will get the kill, and it's the Jesters charging forward. Thockman gets a double kill, and they'll say thank you very much for this Fire Giant and continue where the crew left off. They're burning it down, and there's that Athena ultimate you were asking for getting used to make sure that Thockman can continue to take this FG, but Arrow is here. Arrow is looking for it, but he will have to jump away. Royal Jesters get the first Fire Giant of the game. It's enhanced, and they're looking to try and take Arrow on the back end as well. He's stuck between 4 members, and he will get deleted. All deicide for the Royal Jesters here at the 32-minute mark.
Royal Jesters have 10 seconds to do whatever they want to right now. Volg is down for another 6 seconds, and this Phoenix is on their eyes. They probably could go to mid as well if they'd like to, or even if they wanted to push it, they could go Titan, but I don't think that's the best idea with only having 2 ultimates up right now. Great choice here to wipe Phoenix as much as possible.
Volg takes a bit of damage, will look to get hit by the golden apple or look to avoid it, I suppose, and he does. And stripping Phoenix is exactly what the Royal Jesters are doing. Thokman is just deleting the birds, and the last one will fall. Dharmic Pillars trying to slow down their escape, but it won't be enough. Enhanced Fire Giant, Hachiman, and 2 people to tank up the Phoenix. That is just exactly what this Royal Jester squad were looking for. And now all of a sudden, it's 3 Phoenixes down for the side of the crew. What are they going to do to come back from this one, as the Gold Fury is going to get dropped as well, and it's an Oni Fury. So that is fire Oni waves in all 3 lanes.
Oh, what do you do if you're Royal Jesters right now? Sorry, the crew right now? You probably gotta back up. That's the first thing. That's the first key. You don't want to get yourself caught out in a really bad position farther up a lane than you should be. But go ahead and take a fight if it's near your Phoenixes, or if it's right in the front of your base, basically. If you can get that off, then you might get a chance for a really big pick, because the name of the game for the crew is to get a pick. Get a pick as much as possible. For the name of the game for the Royal Jesters is to get a beads. Get as many beads as possible. Get a Magi's Blessing. Get whatever you can get as far as CC immunity goes off the side of the crew. For the crew, though, is to burst people down as fast as possible. You need to stack together Arrow and Cosmic Vibes, especially get their damage out on the same location because of all the AoE damage they have. But I don't think they're going to have time to do that, because Royal Jesters are just walking down mid right now. No problem.
They have Oni fire minions in this lane. They're marching down with him, but Volg is trying to take a 1v1 against Tangents. He's going to go for the teleport strat, and it seems like he's tanky enough to make it out with that. Cheeky play out of the solo laner for this crew squad, but the Jesters are marching in towards the Titan room of the crew and could be looking for the end. They're going to kill some more of these waves. The crew are posturing. They know this is it, the final stand of game 1. They gotta try and make the hero plays right now to get this one done.
Powwow's got to come out first, and that's all I got to say right now. But let's see exactly how Royal Jesters execute this, because American Tangent's on the left-hand side right now and ready to go. Let's get some poke damage out from Thokman Jones, and then get a good big old CC ultimate from Thokman Jones. Desert Fury used.
It was indeed. The Titan dropped down to about 3/4 HP, just getting some poke damage onto it as Volg gets plucked back, but is fine on the Sun Wukong for the time being. The Jesters are being very careful about this siege, but it's the dash in from Tangent that could start things off, get the beads and the leap out of the Bakasura. Dharmic Pillars are used as well, but here comes that Powwow you mentioned. The Golden Apple lands on one. The Powwow does not get a pull on anybody, except for it does pull that beads, and Volg's clone will end up falling. The Titan still at that 3/4 mark. So far, the crew have done enough, and the Jesters are gonna back up. Only 19 seconds left on their Fire Giant. They can't crack the base.
They can't crack the base, and the 2 same members of Royal Jesters still have their ultimates up. That would be Thokman Jones and FN7. I would love to see. You underestimate how much damage Hachiman's horse can do. When you get on that back of that horse and you get the big arrow in your hands and you hit 5 people for like over 800 damage, 900 damage, and the squishies you're hitting for sometimes 1,000 damage. If you can get that off, yeah, right there. And because he's scaling so much, 95% of your physical power is scaling into that damage. So that's 445 plus probably another 500. You're probably hitting the squishies for about 1,000 damage. It's disgusting the amount of damage it does. And it can be a fight starter. Man, I almost said the opposite. I almost said a sight farter or something like that. But but you get the idea. We need to be using this damage out of Thokman Jones, Hachiman, as well as the Athena ultimate. Just go ahead and let's dive. Let's get in there. And that's what he might do right here.
Physics does pop the bubble of the arrow, so he won't have that extra safety. Pretty much the same as getting a bead, which is what you talked about being so impactful. Tangents tries to dash in and get some more, but for now they seem happy enough just biding their time in this jungle. I mean, all the Phoenixes are respawned now for the side of the Jesters, but they can't feel confident as this Jester squad do pull the Fire Giant, and it's Arrow taking so much damage in the back, has to jump away. Tangents just blew him up. This Daji not dying as you called for of what the crew needed to do, and it's working out for the Jesters here. Fire Giant down to half HP, below it even, and no one from the crew is managing to get anywhere near this Fire Giant. Jesters will get it. The powwow goes up. He has 2 in his grasp, gets an ultimate out, but Corbin does not have the same luxury, and now Volg could be the next one in trouble. That's his clone. How many times am I going to get baited by that? But it's going to be Phoenix Siege instead.
Ooh, Phoenix Siege it is. And I think we probably just go for 1 and a kill here. Yeah, we go for kills here because Volk has no beads, and that's a big old apple. Easy kill coming out from the Royal Jesters. Really well done. This is a 5v3 full health on everyone on Royal Jesters. Let's go ahead and get another Phoenix. Why not? Good dash here from Physics. Might want to look for another taunt from Flippin' Ninjas here right now.
It does get the taunt, which gets the beads out, but it doesn't matter. Claimsies is just gone. Thockman gets that kill, and the siege onto the Titan begins. Thockman gets a double kill before this game is over, trying to find the third, and he will get the triple kill. Cosmic, though, gets a double from the grave, but it's too late. The Jesters have burned the Titan, and the Jesters will win game 1.
Wow. What a game.
Yeah, unbelievable out of the Jesters there. They managed to go up 1-0 in the set. And that's exactly the momentum you'd want. I mean, they had the late game comp with all the CC, and once we got there, they piloted it to perfection and just let Thockman free cast.
Free casting, yeah. Volk never got there. Volk never got to the point where he could put himself right next to Evan and Thockman Jones. If you can't do that, then you're probably not going to do too well. I think let's go ahead and stop talking about this. We can talk a little bit about this game actually. There's the big picture is that Thockman Jones did very well, but overall the entirety of Royal Jesters at the end of the game finally started catching up to the idea of we need to get beads, and that's exactly what they did in that first fight. And then they backed off. They got 2 beads, I think, and they came back again, got 2 Magi's Blessings before the fight even started, and then went in. It's a great choice by Royal Jesters to have so much CC, and I think that was indeed the demise of the crew here. But looking at this damage numbers, whew.
Yeah, just insane. 41k out of Thockman, just completely running the lobby there. But I think you had a good point there that talking about this game is one thing, but when it comes to the crew, they need to look into the future. They need to look to game 2 and figure out what they can change up. Do you think this needs to be a shift up of their own draft, or taking picks and comp styles away from the Jesters?
If you're going to pick, if we know that Royal Jesters likes to pick a CC compound, if they're going to run it back again, whether it's the exact same picks or something similar to it, then you need to get some good answers to it. A good answer to that would be Geb. Geb is a great support pick that can cancel CC within an instance of an ability. With that shield, it's very, very strong. And so if you can pick a Geb and then pick ultimates with CC immunity, then that's even better for you. I understand that Claimsy on the Honor has the Desert Fury, and Sun Wukong can go up in the sky, and Bakasera can do Regurgitate. Ganesh doesn't have CC immunity in his ultimate, nor does Merlin even have an ultimate, just has a switch stance. And so probably you want 5 gods that have CC immune ultimates, and you probably just want to revamp your entire thoughts of what your comp is going to be. Look for something that has a little more escape ability. Maybe a Scylla in the mid lane would be a great choice. That also has the CC immune ultimate. That would be a great choice, at least in the mid lane. I can give you every single other lane, but I think we would drag on a little bit too much, and we're probably going to find out here in like the next 10 minutes. So
yeah, we will indeed find out when we get back for picks and bans for game number 2. Until then, we're going to cut to a quick break. But we will be back in a few moments, so don't go anywhere. You're going to want to find out what happens between the Jesters and the crew here on the Olympus Smite League. Hello, everybody, and welcome back here on the Olympus Smite League between the Royal Jesters and the crew for this Sparta Division matchup. If you missed game one, the Royal Jesters took it after a very back and forth late game where their CC just overwhelmed the crew. And as we head into picks and bans for game two here, Phoenix, we talked about it a little bit before. What do you want to see the crew kind of shift to make things go their way here in game two?
When you play a certain comp and when you play against a certain comp as well. So it's kind of there's games that you play that are 3D fields. Valorant is one of those. In this game, in picks and bans especially, and in most other MOBAs as well, it's a very 2D playing field. It means that you need to counter pick directly what they do pick, or pick a better comp than what they have. That's the two answers you have as far as it goes into the picks and bans. In the situation for the crew, they've been the exact same things as they did the last time. And I expect to see a bit more security or like safety picks instead of picking things that are so out there and so crazy and need to position themselves in wild positions to become effective in team fights. Bakasira is one of those picks that you need to be in a position in the team fight to be effective. The positioning is the most important thing about Bakasira, because if you don't land basic attacks or if you don't land regurgitate in a correct form, you're just dead. You're gonna get CC to death because you have no escape. Typically, you either jump in or blink in, and you're gonna get killed. So I'm looking for less gods like Bakasira and more gods like Susano is a great pick, or Jormungandr, another great pick that you can do to create control a lot more than before. But they did not ban the Hachiman. That's gonna be another problem.
Yes, it is. We saw what Thawkman Jones was able to do on this pick in game one, and it was scary. But the Jormungandr does bring not only the control, but the safety that you mentioned too, kind of a 2-for-1 for the crew there for their solo laner of Volg. So that's a good start to their draft, but I don't know, letting the Hachiman through is just a scary prospect for me. And we also see the Athena once again for the Jesters here getting hovered. They lock this in. We already know what a powerhouse of a dual lane this can be. And I mean, you were harping on them for not using their ults enough, and they still kind of ran the show. So that's just shows how intense Hachiman and Athena are together.
It's a really strong duo lane, and I said it the last game as well, which is that there's just a strong early game presence from both of these teams. Both of these picks from the Royal Jesters. This is for me right here, man. Already enough CC for me to say I'm getting Geb. I'm picking up Geb in support. I'm not gonna let them ban it. It's the best choice you can do here. The other choice you could do, it's a weird pick. You might say, "What the heck are you saying, Phoenix?" Is Kabrakan. Kabrakan is one of those gods that the more you can put him in the center of a problem, the better. And that's exactly what Royal Jesters did last game, was they put Ganesha into the center of a problem. And they did that to Sun Wukong as well. Uh, if you're a Kabrakan and you're the center of a problem, that's a really good thing for you, because put that wall up and then start trimmering. Oh, it's just disaster for the other team. But Cleo being hovered for the crew right now, there's some CC immunity if you get into a wall, I guess.
Yeah, it is a measure of safety, not hard. Kind of Giannis can get through walls, but in a much different way. If Kalina can get into that wall, she is completely safe beyond the damage she takes while she stays in there. But you called for it, and the crew are hovering it. The Geb, not something I expected to see at all today on 10.6, but it seems like you opened your third eye and saw into the future.
It just makes logical sense. I do the math, do the addition. Royal Jesters are literally running it back. This is wild, the fact that they're just running it back like this. And the fact that the crew is allowing them to run it back. But this is looking like a better team for the crew to be able to answer the issues that are the Royal Jesters CC. I don't love the Cleo pick. As I said, I was more okay with like even a Susano pick or something like that. But the one ban they will do, and I'll comment on it now, is that Sobek is away from Physics DZN. Smart choice, because it was, even though it was not as much CC as like an Athena sometimes, if you miss the pluck especially, it is still a lot of problems for a team that's trying to not build against CC and the dodgy ban. Smart bans.
Yeah, definitely. There was so much problems coming from American Tangents on the Daji, and even if you miss the pluck, they can still disrupt with all of the other abilities that Sobek has. You know who else has really good CC? Is Achilles. He can stun you. He can keep on top of you with his dashes, and in some ways, it executes better than a lot of things that Sobek can bring.
No, no, don't do this. Don't lock this in, please.
Would be a choice.
It would be very much so a choice. An Olo run is you're asking to be the target every single fight. If I was flipping ninjas right now, everyone on Jesters should be saying, "Pick that! I dare you to pick that," because Oloron is probably the least. Even Anubis has a better escape now than Oloron, in my opinion, because he can walk while he's doing the plague of the lotus or whatever it's called, the breath. And I, not the answer to this question. I think I still say it's Scylla. Scylla is the best pick here that you could do. If you're on the side of the crew looking at a mid laner and you're gonna lock in the Olo run, I mean, Sanctified Field, I guess, is a thing. Slow down the enemies.
Yeah, it is. The Hunt Bats hover. Okay. Do you think we're going to see Kalina mid? If this is the call, I feel like Ola I've seen Kalina ADC though as well. I both are strange picks, but both could be a thing. What are you expecting to see out of this spicy? I'm going to use the word spicy crew draft.
Let's get the two out of here normally, okay? Let's get the two easy ones out of here. Geb is going support, and
Mm-hmm.
Olorun is going ADC, in my opinion. Those are the two. Here we go. Get spicy now. I think Ja will go solo. Cleo will go jungle, and Jormungandr will go solo. But there's no mid winner. Sorry. Jormungandr will go mid, which means that
I love that. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. But your mid is one of my favorite personal picks to troll with in casual games. If we got to see it here coming out of Cosmic Vibes, it would make my day. I just don't know if that is the call. I don't know.
Cleo or Naja mid cannot be the thing, right?
So I've seen Kalina mid in a comp game on 10.6. It didn't work, but it could here. It could here. This crew squad, this has got to be something they practice in scrims. This has got to be something they have confidence in. Otherwise, I can't see them locking it against a team that is, the top three are exactly the same for the Royal Jesters, and we know how strong it is. You have to lock in something on the other side if you're the crew that you feel comfortable fighting into that. And maybe it's clean a mid or your mid.
All three of these people in this production room have eyes on a lot of the amateur leagues. And as one of the people has eyes on a specific one of them named the SDL, Evan has played the Jormungandr mid before. That's the enemy team. That's not the team that has the Jormungandr on it right now. But this might be a little bit of friendly banter where Cosmic Vibes is going to pull out something that Evan has played in literally the playoffs of a like an amateur league. Might be a shout out to that. I don't know though. That would be like humongous respect to Evan. But it's worthy of it because Evan did roll in the Jormungandr mid, and that was not that long ago. That was like 2 months ago. Barely. It was still kind of the same-ish situation in the game at that point, but a lot has been added, and Jormungandr is just stronger now, in my opinion.
He's definitely stronger, and if the two of us are sitting here trying to come up with why the Jormungandr mid might be a thing as a respect pick, this draft from the crew is just out of this world. That we're stretching so hard to find out where things are going to go. I'm so excited to see where these things go, and the only way to find out is to hop into game to find out who is piloting what. And as we do jump into the battlegrounds of the gods, it's going to be Kalina mid with Volg on the Jormungandr.
Good call.
So now that we know that it is the Kalina mid, how do you feel about it?
Not good.
What's it bring?
What's it bring? I can say what Kalina brings to the table, which is what he just hovered over. Bluestone Pendant going into Soul Eater is what's going to be happening here. It's a smart choice if you're playing Kalina solo, I think, but also I guess it could work mid. You're going to struggle with clear until guess what level 5, until you can get Pierce the Veil or Tear the Veil, whichever one you call it. If you can get that, then you're going to be able to clear waves a lot better. But up and until then, it's going to be very difficult to make space between you and a Discordia. I understand that Cleo has Bluestone Pendant on her, which means that there might be a possibility for better wave clear than a Discordia. But in my opinion, it's going to be null and void by the time that we hit, I don't know, let's say 10 minutes. Because at that point, If you dash as Discordia, as Cleo, then you're dead. You're gonna get appled. You're gonna get two'd. You're gonna get everything's gonna come out from every single player. So it's the only pick I do not like on the crew, and it's in mid. So let's see what happens here.
Yeah, but it is going to be all about execution more so than it ever has been here for the crew to try and prove why this is the choice in a game 2 where you need to win it to extend the set. It's going to be very interesting to watch both of these. And in the dual lane, we touched on the Ola run a bit. He does bring some level of safety with the Sanctified Field once he hits level 5. But is that going to be enough to stand up with all the setup that once again is happening over here, as it's actually the damage onto Athena just a little bit more is all that would have been needed. Look at that. That was almost sub 10-digit health bars by the looks of it. The Ola run one, just not enough. I think maybe Claimsy just heard me talking about it with a tone that was a bit iffy and wanted to prove to me why this Ola run's a good pickup.
It could be good in the late game. I like to look towards the future, right? But it's all going to be about how you place the Sanctified Field. We said it last game about Royal Jesters, and Thoughtman Jones looks to be in a tough position. Getting dove right now by Arrow will not be enough damage to get really much of anything. Just take some loss on Arrow, and same on Thoughtman Jones. Everyone will back off, say thank you, Merry Christmas, goodbye, see you next year. On the situation though of Ola run, you are correct. You said Sanctified Field. I've said it twice, I think already. That is the ability that makes Ola run who Ola run is in the current meta. And it has made Ola run ever since the root of he was made a god basically. But speaking of made a god, Evan in a rough position here, but will do it again, dude. He keeps doing this. He can't keep getting away with this.
The double stripes have been so good from Evan on this Discordia. I can't believe they let him have it again.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of pressure over there in the solo lane, but Jormungandr, as you talked about on the desk, safe enough to just walk away underneath the tower for the time being.
Considering we're OSL, we're SDL, we're every one of these amateur leagues, you got to kind of explain something, which is the effects that last game had mentally on the crew, right? Because you just got pretty dominated in the late game. It was like the end score was like what, 16-3 or no. So it was 8 or something like that. It was like 16-8 or something like that. It was very close to. It was a pretty big diversion by the end of the game. Those fights were going pretty strongly the way of Royal Jesters. And it was only thanks and mainly thanks to the damage coming out from the 41k damage Hachiman. So that's still on this table right now. And so you got to think about what is the crew thinking right now? Is this a new game, or should we be super scared about Thoughtman Jones going 14-1 again?
Yeah, definitely something that these players are going to have in their minds as we continue to watch them farm up. Builds wise, it's fairly standard across the board as far as I can tell. It is the same start from Achilles that we saw last game out of Volk on the Sun Wukong, that Bluestone into the mystical earring. But Achilles is a different god. Do you like that start on him as well?
I love that start on him, and I'm going to look to the opposing side because that's the start I like even more. Tainted Steel finally coming out. I said this last game, which is that it should have come out maybe instead of the Conduit gem. It would have been a smarter decision. I like this pickup from Jormungandr because he doesn't need more damage, and look at what he's already doing to physics. He's already so low, and this is going to be a boxy match over here. But also a pretty non-gankable lane. Both have really strong escapes.
But a gankable lane is the dual lane, and it's a fear no evil trouble here. The Sanctified Field will come out to save the life of the support. Not often you see the ADC peeling, and Claimsy will get the first kill of this game. First blood to the Ola run, and Naja is here to add to the pain. Arrow will get another kill onto the Hunbats. The Windfire Wheels is off the mark, and the Hachiman will stay safe. But the Jesters, they wanted to take that fight, and they just got punished for it.
If I am correct, the crew went 2-0 last game in the beginning, right? I think they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe so.
The exact same fashion. In the early part of the game, they got a 2-kill lead in the dual lane. This dual lane, as I said, should be the focus, and it looks like it still is.
It is indeed. The sash lands and damage onto Thoughtman, but he's able to back up underneath the tier 1 tower. But it seems like Arrow once again is wanting to prioritize this dual lane in the early.
Smart decision by Arrow as well, because it was successful last game. And if you can keep doing it properly, then you're going to keep getting kills. And that's exactly what you need as an early to mid game jungler. Of course, Neja comes out to be effective, but super more effective because Windfire Wheels can take someone up into the air for so long that your team can group up around you, and then when they come back down, then you kill them. That's typically how it goes, unless you can find yourself a carry with half of their health or a mid laner with half of their health, in which then you'll be getting kills as a Naja. But in the late game, it's much more for setup, especially if they go the proper build. But speaking of invasions, ooh, what a is that? Oh, sorry, that was oh, I tricked myself. I thought that was a royal jester invading the crew.
We did see invasions though. There was a
Yes.
blue buff invade, those back harpies got invaded. It seems like that's where American Tangent is wanting to focus his early game after getting shut down in the dual lane, just invading as opposed to getting so aggressive. But it's Volk who's getting aggressed upon. The execute threshold has been met, but it looks like the rotation from Arrow was enough to scare him away. Surprises me a bit because he could have, if he got the reset, couldn't he have just dashed back away?
Yeah, he could have right there. There was actually no problem for him, especially considering like you're a pretty tanky little Achilles right now, and you have a good amount of healing. It's just smarter to back up, I guess. Though you can go ahead and be the smart player, back up, go ahead and take some room for yourself. And even though your buff is invaded, it doesn't really matter because you can survive here as a Jormungandr, get some help from your wonderful looking jungler in Arrow. I would love to see some pressure in the solo lane. We haven't seen it either one of the games, but will it be effective? I don't really think so, especially with these two guys, but that's how it feels with almost every god in solo lane right now.
Yeah, and they're just so hard to gank. They either have the safety or just the raw tankiness that makes it so hard to get pressure over in that lane. And often we see the pressure, sort of coming from that lane in the direction as Windfire Wheels does take up one, but Defender of Olympus is here to make sure that Thokman stays safe. A good rotation in from FN7 will save the life of the ADC, and that ultimate that you called for him to use more often in game one gets used fairly early here in game two.
Yeah, let's keep using it. I would love to see FN7 just on cooldown use the Athena ultimate, because in early game, if you wait for that right little 1 second, right? If you wait for the one moment to get the ultimate off and get a kill, it's could be effective sometimes, but like most of the time, it's just more worth it to throw it out and hope that your team can and trust your team to do more. But getting kind of in the jungle right now is American Tangent. No Windfire Wheels. We just saw it up in the air with the Hachiman. Going under the World Serpent is, and a fight will start here onto the Jaw.
Evil comes out, and it's Arrow in a lot of trouble. He's in Execute Threshold, and Physics does not miss. Will get the kill onto Arrow's Naja, and all Volk can do is back in response.
Smart play right there, coming from Physics to go ahead and delay the Jormungandr, make him go underneath the ground, and then make the rotation right to his jungler. Because of course, as I said, we need Arrow to be doing stuff. Go out there, go ahead and get some ultimates out, go ahead and start fighting. But that's not the situation we want to be in. You don't want to be in their jungle at their blue with blue being up, but your Achilles getting poked out. Your Jormungandr getting poked out to all hell, and you have no teammates with you. So you're going to get surrounded by 3 players. Great rotation as well from Evan to make sure that kill went their way. I saw Evan as well on the fight in left lane that was happening a couple minutes ago. Evan has been rotating very well to these fights, even though his main laner has not been rotating into them. Really well done by Evan there.
Yeah, Evan prioritizing the team play over his own farm does put him maybe half a level behind Cosmic Vibes on the Cleo, but if things get more intense and these rotations continue to happen, the Jesters are going to feel much better about having their Discordia there than they would if they didn't. And Thokman on this Hachiman as he secures his purple buff is once again going for an early Griffin Wing, which is not something that I've seen too often, but after his performance in game one, might be looking to build myself when I hop into a game.
Yeah, it feels really strong, and I know it's strong in duel. I build it first time in duel all the time, but it just makes sense, I guess. If it works in duel, it might work here. And Arrow says, I don't care if you have Griffin Wing or a second tier Griffin Wing. I'm going to come challenge this shield buff and take half of my damage within a second, and we'll end up
He
securing
got it.
the shield buff. Well done.
I did not expect him to
Nope.
take that one, but he could be in a lot of trouble and has to use the Windfire Wheels to escape the clutches of FN7, kind of greeding to pick up the actual buff there. That's an impactful ultimate not to have for the next minute or so.
At this level of play, you would expect this is a Gold Fury time. This is a big time to start getting to Gold Fury. Will Serpent will be forced out, will do some damage to Physics DZN. No members of Royal Jesters is around to secure the kill onto the Jormungandr from Volg. But guess what is about to be up is that beacon. We got a little bit longer here, about 2 more minutes left until that's up. Gold Fury is standing, which means we could see some rotations from the solo lane, but instead an invasion coming out from Physics DZN onto this blue.
And he doesn't even need tangents this time to want to look for it, but he might have stepped too far forward. A good sash comes in from Arrow, but he still is able in a 1v2 situation to get that buff still in a way, and that just always feels so bad if you're Volk.
Ooh, Physics DZN looking good this game. Kind of prevailing. Last game we saw it with Thockman Jones. This game we're seeing it with Physics as one of the bigger parts of the early game for the Royal Jesters to be able to secure another buff there for their team without American Gestures, as you just said, and American tangents, excuse me. I mixed gestures and tangents. But great situation here for the Royal Jesters. They're once again basically neck and neck. It's around a K gold difference going one way to the other. Not that big of a deal. We saw this exactly last game. I hope to see a better play going into this mid game from the crew, and possibly getting not only the Gold Fury like they did last game, but also getting the Pyromancers. Let's go ahead and secure both of these large objectives if we can.
Definitely be exactly what they were looking for. 10 seconds until the beacon spawns, and already Volg has made his rotation over this way. We can see Physics making his way down the mid lane as well. Seems like we could have a full 5-on-5 as the beacon opens up for capture. FN7 stepping up to stall out the pressure, and already rotations coming around from the back end, but Arrow is in a lot of trouble. Arrow has to use the beads to get out of the strife and the stun from this Achilles. They are trying to step back forward. Arrow does have the Windfire wheels available, but he gets taunted in. The Fear No Evil pushes him away, and he will get just barely out of the execute, and claims he will actually get the first kill. 2 low health bar members for the crew, but they're the ones who get the first pick. World Serpent flashing through in the back line as claims he's forced to back away from this Stygian beacon pit. And it's in the wall for Cosmic Vibes, who can continue to hide for the moment, but at some point is going to have to come out. Look how much damage the walls are doing. Almost dies to the PvE. And just because of that, on top of the pressure, the Jesters will get the first Stygian beacon and walk away cleanly.
Cleanly with Cleo, without Cleo though in the situation, because Cosmic Vibes forced out of the wall. It's a bad situation to be in when you're stuck in a wall and losing all of your health to nothing. There's no one around you even hitting you. It's just the wall that hates you. And I want to talk a little about Physics DZN again. We've already kind of pumped him up a little bit in this game, but what a situation right there. Was standing on the front line of that fight the entire fight. There was no one there that could challenge him, and it felt like he was just I don't know, like a stone or like a brick wall for the entirety of the Royal Jesters, having a really hard, sorry, for the crew having a really hard time getting through him. But big kill, another big kill for Claimsy. Here we go, 2-0-1 Ola run, building every single ring on the entirety of that branch.
Yeah, he really is just going down that tree. We do usually see some other items, penetration and raw power. Do you want this to be a Cyclopean ring or something else? As Volk once again gets under pressure, just able to walk under the tower as Physics. But I mean, there's only 4 rings. There's only so many options he can go towards. Which one would you want to see him go here next?
Cyclopean ring makes the most sense. It has everything that an Olrun would want. He doesn't really need the movement that the hastened ring would provide. But speaking of hasten, he needs to get out of here right now. Arrow does.
Arrow in a lot of trouble, gets hit by the Fear No Evil, but is able to back away. Doesn't actually take as much damage as I expected. It was a big ultimate used by American Tangents, but doesn't really get anything.
I thought that was going to be a full-fledged fight right there. It was weird that Royal Gestures just backed up off of that, because a Humbot's ultimate is not a small ultimate. It's one of the biggest ultimates in this game with these 10 players here. I would say World Serpent is one of the biggest ones, of course, and then Windfire Wheels is another one. But right behind that is a wonderful looking Fear No Evil that can hit up to 5 enemy gods and just CC them for the entire time. We talk about CC on Royal Jesters, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Well, level 14 though on American Tangents versus level 12 on Arrow right now. Not looking great for Arrow. Needs a little more farm, a couple more kills. This Gold Fury could be the answer.
Could be. They are posturing around it, and we're 15 minutes in, so it's definitely on the menu for both of these squads. Last game, we talked about how much burn the crew had with all of their damage. Is that the same here? Do you think the crew had the advantage around these objectives, or have Jesters drafted something better?
I think the Jesters have already drafted better, in my opinion. As far as damage goes, though, it's gonna be close. You have a lot of damage coming from Cosmic Vibes. Once again, Tear the Veil is some of the highest secure in the game that you can have. You can pop out two of those at the exact same time. It's like 300 damage within a second. It feels like a ton, especially if you're a carry or a small little squishy god. But on the other side, of course, you have as I said, the Fear No Evil, the space creation from Hachiman, as well as Evan on the Discordia. It's that space that can win team fights sometimes, and I don't think that Royal Jesters are looking for objective burn. They're once again looking for, we just want kills. We don't care about this gold fairy that you're taking. We just want you to die, and then if we get the gold fairy, it's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, they're very two different ways to look at the game as there's a rotation in towards the red buff invade from Physics, who is just got his lead over there in the solo lane. Even though he's a level down, it still feels like he has it, but Pyromancer goes the way of the Jesters, almost taken away by this Geb, who gets the good ultimate off just to buy space for himself, because he could have been in a lot of trouble. But Arrow's searching, Arrow's hunting the backline right now. Will blink in, gets the Windfire wheels onto FN7. All two of the three crits land, excuse me. And Corbin will get the kill onto the enemy support, but the Apple and the Fear No Evil are too much for Arrow, and he will fall in response. Physics still charging forward. This Achilles just feels so hard to deal with. And I think I'm just a bit surprised that he's a level down, even though he is the one that feels like the raid boss.
Yeah, he is one level down, and we said it about Thoughtman. No, we said it about Evan, because he also was like half a level behind. And sometimes you got to do that for your team to prevail in the entirety of the game. You have to go ahead and take some losses in your own lane. Every single member of Royal Gestures are currently down by either half a level or a full level, and so that's what's going to happen when you're focusing more on getting kills than you are on killing minions in lanes. But what it can do for you is set up for a better late game and a better situation for you, and not probably mid game because you're going to be behind by a little bit, but a better late game is what it can help you set up for, because once again, I talked about it. It's all about that mental. And for players like this, that mental can be breaking down for the crew right now because they're only ahead by 2 kills, even though it feels like they're doing so much more.
Yeah, it's a very tight balance between these two teams right now that they need to keep an eye on to make sure that they're not mentally falling behind. As you said, the beacon will spawn soon, but on this solo lane side, a scrap over that cooldown buff is nowhere near as important to the Jesters as this Gold Fury is. They are burning through it rather quickly, and once again, it's just on Corbin to try and steal it away. Fear No Evil will be used for that space control, as you mentioned earlier, and the Gold Fury goes the way of the Jesters.
That's the best part about Fear No Evil, man. Is just the ability to lay it down on the ground and do whatever you want to behind it. And that's exactly what he did against the Geb there in Corbin. But sadly, I think they will probably lose the beacon here. This will be a 1-1, right? I think that the crew got it the first time, the second time right now. And then beforehand, the Royal Gestures got it because of poking out Cosmic Vibes.
I believe you are correct, and the Jesters do have two members around the beacon. They attempted to step forward looking for an opportunity, but will end up giving it up for the time being. The crew will take the second beacon as Volg tries to get aggressive in the mid lane, but we'll just focus on the Bastion for now. And you know, 1-0-3 and 2-0-1 from the dual lane from the crew right now. Am I wrong, or does this seem like the lane that the Jesters, or that the crew, excuse me, need to play through?
They do need to play through this lane, but you gotta keep in mind, say his name. Thoughtman Jones is in this lane, and he showed last game that even though the enemy ADC can have a lead, it does not matter to him whatsoever. Because look at that tower. He is currently winning the lane by just a little bit. That can go a totally different way within a second, because if you let an Olorun hit a tower for more than like 3 seconds, it's going to be a melted tower, especially going Ornate Bow. And we were correct on the call for the Cyclopean Ring, probably going into a is that the same tree as the Doom Orb right there? Or is that probably
That's
going
got
to
to be
like
Rod.
Ratatouille, right? Or a Karen's coin? That's the only other choice that you really have. Or Chronos Pendant for some reason, maybe. But yeah, it looks like we have
Yeah.
a pause here, but we can discuss a little bit more about these items here for just a little bit and see if this pause might break out in a couple seconds. If it does not, we might have to go to a break. But I wanted to talk real quick about the ethereal staff coming out of Discordia. That's really cool. I think we didn't comment on it last game, but I love that pickup right now. It's really cool in this meta. If you can read the passive, that's the main part about it. It just makes you a bit more of a hard person to kill because you steal health from the enemy team. Kind of a wild item.
Yeah, it's been seeing so much play here in the Season of Souls, and Evan will pick it up as we come out of the pause and hop back into the action. I do agree with you. I think that's a good pick for the Discordia in that mid lane. But the next item that Evan's going into, an Ob Shard or a Spear of the Magus are the only options that you can get out of that. Neither one something that I personally see too often in the mid lane. Do you like this direction that it goes? As could have been a bit of an engagement in mid, but it seems like it'll fizzle.
I think it's a good pickup. Yeah, I think that if you can stack more and more penetration, that's a great idea. As Jesters pull this Pyromancer here, 2 members of the crew are ready here to fight for it. This is going to be a dance.
It is indeed a good taunt. Gets the beads out of Arrow, so he'll be much less safe now on this Naja. Volg zoning to try and make it harder for the Jesters to step up to this. But Arrow doesn't mind. He doesn't have the beads. Tries to get aggressive. Misses the sash. And so we'll have to back up. And the Jesters have the advantage positionally around the Pyromancer for the time being. Doesn't look like either team want to pull it, and Thokman Jones all the while is just going to say, I'll take these other structures, these other objectives, while you guys just stare at each other in the mid lane. Gets that tier 1 tower and left, and is backing up because he knows there's a rotation in from Arrow. Seems like he'll be able to get away safely after taking that T1.
I am super surprised that no one took the fight there a little bit more aggressively, especially with how they've been playing these invades. And other objectives have been fought over like no else. They've been blood and nasty, and Achilles has been going in, and war has ensued upon walking towards a gold fairy or walking towards a fire giant or pyromancer in the last game, especially. This is a very unusual situation because they both just kind of danced and looked at each other. Achilles kind of walked up, but then everyone from the crew just walked away and said, "Hi, we're just gonna go ahead and leave now. Bye." It's an unusual situation to be in, but this is what you need. If you can get poke out like this and force out World Serpent, especially, this is a great situation for the Royal Jesters, and they know that.
They do indeed. They start up this Pyromancer, and they're looking to zone away Corbin. The Golden Apple misses, but the Pyromancer will end up falling. The Jesters pick that one up and have a second Runic Bomb for themselves here. That is so much potential structure damage sitting in the pockets of the Jesters, and they're going to look to use some of that maybe right here, stepping up to the tier 1 tower. We don't need a Runic Bomb for that, though. They will just delete that mid tower, and they're walking as a unit towards this Oni Fury.
Crew has to fully challenge this. They have to get in there. This cannot be a non-challenge. This is going to be too much for them to handle, and I expect them to walk in right now. Geb, get in there. Let's go.
They are stepping forward, but the strife will come out. It's Vogue who steps forward first. Sanctified Field, though, slows them all down, and the Windfire Wheels will pick up one. Claimsy will get another, and Cosmic Vibes will get credit for that kill onto the support. It's all about getting out now for the Jesters, who lost too many members. The Mounted Archery is trying to buy space for Thokman, and he will get a ways out, but gets hit by the Sunder, gets dove on by the mid laner, but it's an up-down from American Tangents that costs him his life. All the while, though, Evan returns around 1 kill before getting dropped by Volg, and it's just Thokman left. It's just the Hachiman remaining for the Jesters. The crew get a 4-for-1 trade, and they should be able to pick this Oni Fury on the back end as well.
What a win for the crew. They needed that so badly after the back of losing their mid tower as well as losing the Pyromancer. This is a big situation if you are a crew member, funny enough, which is something that you say at like shows and stuff like that. But this is what you want. You want to be getting objectives, especially objectives like the Oni Fury, because Oni Fury will enhance your waves. We can't really zoom in on them, but they're all very fancy little red waves that do cool little things for your team, including pushing minions that are regular minions out a lot more. And you see them right there with a red hovering juice around them. They're kind of like steroided up in some way. And they can push down towers like no else. So I expect to see a little bit of push with this, and possibly in the mid lane. Good choice here by Volk to get that tower.
Yeah, just kind of walks up and steals that one away for free. Doesn't even need the Oni wave. but that will force the Jesters to defend mid a little bit harder and could allow some of the side lanes to leak through, though it looks like the Jesters have the defense covered. But while they're doing that, the beacon is about to spawn, and that could be what the crew are going to look for here, is to try and get the third and final beacon for themselves.
Cosmic, don't get in the wall this time. Please don't get in the wall. Oh, no, here we go. Get out of it. Oh,
All right.
no. I'm starting to
I,
die
I want
already.
a damage stat for the wall at the end of this game. As the fight continues here, Volg will be in the middle of the entirety of the Royal Jester squad and is totally fine for the time being, just doing some poke, doing some zoning. The beacon does open up, and it's the Jesters actually the ones charging forward. Corbin gets a good knock-up, but is in so much trouble. But a good body block out of the Oleron to save the life of his support. Horrific comes out, and it's FN7 who's on the run. Cosmic Vibes is on the beacon, but it's the Hunbats who gets the kill there on to his opponent of Arrow. Volg trying to win this 1v1, will go up into the World Serpent, but decides instead of getting the solo kill, he'll go help his team as claims he gets one, claims he gets two on this Oleron. Beacon almost charged. Beacon will be charged by the crew. FN7 did what he could to get in there and try to delay it further, but the binds of Tartarus are no more, and the Titans are about to be marching down the dual lane.
Oh, no. Oleron's looking good. I might have made a mistake. I might have made a presumption mistake that Oleron was not going to work into this, and you were correct with the Rada Hootie call. I haven't seen Rada Hootie in a long time, but ever since the last patch, I haven't seen Rada Hootie being built as often because power is not as much the full thing, and especially with the nerfs to all of the power items across the entire game, the one that got hit the worst was probably Rada Hootie, going from like 130 extra damage, something crazy, 120, down to like 70, 80, something not too much in comparison. But I want Jesters to stay in this game. Let's give them a story here. This is a 1-0 game going in their favor. Their mental should be strong. They should feel like they can still win this game. These fights are not going terribly against them. They just need to once again line up their abilities in the correct order and do everything they can to make sure that Thoughtman Jones stays alive and peel out for him, and that you can get the kill on Declaimsy because he is currently going off, as I would say.
6-0-2. He's going to have a decent shutdown bonus on him as well. If they should be able to find that kill onto the Oleron. And I agree. I feel like what worked so well for the Jesters in game one was giving Thockman the ability to sort of free cast the entire time. He did so much damage, so much work. They need to give him that once again as the crew get the Pyromancer for themselves. Cosmic's Vibes once again taking damage from the wall, but will dash out of it as Volg zones away any potential re-engage that the Jesters might want to have. Who needs to step up the most here to kind of give Thockman the room to free cast like he did in game one?
I think that physics is already giving him that room, but it's all going to be about whom bots and where he can place the big old Fear No Evil. If we can get a good Fear No Evil, then it makes all the room for Hachiman to come in.
Well, Fire Giant is going to be the target here as these teams start to engage. Fear No Evil comes out and knocks away one. Corbin is low on the Geb, but is tanking up to side for the time being. The same cannot be said for Volg, who will get executed by Physics. A good taunt pulls back arrow, but he decides to use the sash, but he gets taken so much damage from Physics, who is buying infinite space, getting so many kills here. That's a double kill for the solo laner. He's actually taking quite a bit of damage from the Fire Giant and will dash away, but the crew wanted that Fire Giant and just could not afford to take the fight on the back end.
It was a little bit of a scuffed fight for the crew, I would say, at least, because your guy right now is this person right here that we're hovering over, which is Claimsy. And that is the person that needs to be at these fights to be, for it to even be a fight, it feels like sometimes. Especially, I don't see these fights going any other way unless he's there with a big sanctified field. If you ask me just how do you capture, how do you help Thoughtman Jones get kills, in the situation of how do you help the Oleron get kills, it's only about how he places his own sanctified field.
Well, the Fire Giant might be the one getting killed, and it is. Royal Jesters will pick that up for themselves just 29 minutes into this game. So they have that Fire Giant belt around the waists of all 5 members, and we'll start to look to the siege here of the base of the crew. How do you like the crew's siege defense as we shift towards the later stage of this game?
Any comp with Gebinet is going to be a good defense, one of the best defense gods in the game as far as the support goes. And then of course, I gotta say it again, Cleana or Cleo is one of the other best defense gods. All you gotta do is set up 2 traps, 2 tear the veils, and then scream outside the wall. And there's no way that you're not gonna at least do a little bit of damage to a tank or to a squishy in the form of the scream or the tear the veil. It's a great situation to be the crew right now, especially with still having at least a little bit of a gold lead, which means your items are a little bit farther ahead of Royal Jesters. Maybe 500 pots are ticking a little bit faster for the crew right now. I hope to see a strong defense. And I didn't even say one other ability, but we've said it 6 times this game, right? Sanctified Fields is a great, it covers the entire lane. It's a great ability for defenses. So yes, the crew have a great defense, to answer your question.
Well, we'll have to see how they want to use it. For the moment, it's defending the tier 2 tower. A little soft defense to slow down this Jesters squad, not allow them to have as much time to push in towards the Phoenixes, as the junglers have a bit of a 1v1 in the mid lane, but both teams will show up not respecting that 1v1. Will instead look to siege the strife off the mark, but it's a blink in from Corbin. He gets a good ultimate off, but the Fear No Evil is good in return. Up into the sky, arrow takes Tangents, who does a lot of damage, and on landing, he will fall. The Claimsy, this Ola run is still just free casting in this fight. Physics taking a lot of damage, but it's Volk who has to go up because Physics turns all that damage back around. Another good stun, and he has the execute to get out on the back end as well. Look at the health bars for so many members of the crew. They will fall as well. The crew are falling like flies. Physics gets a triple kill. This siege defense is going abysmally for the Jesters.
It's because it's not a siege defense anymore. They've pushed out of this tower line and took a fight when they really should have not. These guys have Fire Giant teleporting back in. Is Physics DZN. Get out of their Cosmic Vibes. You are the last defense for this Titan at this point because they could just walk in and end this game if they wanted to right now.
They could. They have 3 members strong here. Low health bar for the Athena, but Physics can take this Phoenix up just fine. They have to feel a little sad that Thokman fell, so their objective shred won't be good, but those runic bombs we talked about earlier will come into play. And Evan is charging forward with the help of Physics, and it might be a kill onto the last member, but Cosmic Vibes is safe enough to make it into the fountain room, and there's just not enough damage with the remaining members, especially with respawns for this Royal Jester squad to end the game. And if they're not careful, they could get re-engaged on once again, but it seems like mid Phoenix and the fight win is going to have to do it for now for the Royal Jesters after this Pyromancer.
And Pyromancer will probably go the way of Royal Jesters, and it will. There's no one here to challenge them at all, unless that Serpent can throw a spit a mile away. That'd be crazy, right? It was like, bah! But I want to talk about something, because last game, it was all, who was it all? It was all Thoughtman Jones, 13-1 or something like that. Something crazy on the scoreline. This game, this shows you how versatile this Royal Jesters team is. This game, it's all about Physics DZN getting his first triple kill right there. That's exactly what Thoughtman Jones did last game. Was he got 2 actually triple kills, and so Physics is just following that pathway and saying, hey, warriors can do that too. It doesn't have to be Hodgman, one of the strongest gods in the game right now. It can also be Achilles, one of the other strongest gods in the game, but it just appears in a different lane on the solo side. Great position here for Physics though.
Bees forced out onto Volk, who has to go into the World Serpent as well. They were trying to find something in the jungle, and they might continue to do so, but Physics is here on the Achilles and is standing in front of his team, which means the crew are going to back up because this Achilles is so hard to deal with, and now it's the Jesters, the ones actually charging forward here. They no longer have the Fire Giant. That will respawn in just about 30 seconds, but it seems like they don't care. They're still going to go on this engage. Corbin gets a good ult onto Physics, but the Fear No Evil is even better. Claimsy in a lot of trouble, but Tangents does have to back up. The mounted archery, not enough to do any damage really to Arrow, and it seems like the Jesters are realizing if they don't have the Fire Giant, this crew squad can definitely still pack a punch.
Ooh, they're going to let Arrow stand up, though, and, ooh, very difficult position to be in if you are a Naza, because Evan is doing so much damage. Volg Beads is down as well as World Serpent. Could be in a problem here, but instead, Jesters will go ahead and back up here, go towards their Fire Giant, probably claim it, here at some point, but I said that last game and they didn't ever claim it. Looking for a bait here because they don't think there's a ward right in the middle of the lane, but there actually is.
Well, it could be trouble for Corbin, who gets pulled into all 5 members and just is deleted. All Cosmic Vibes can do is sit in the wall and watch it happen. He's gonna have to get out of there. Eventually he does, and it's Physics so far forward of the rest of his team because he knows he's just been unkillable for the most part. This game does have 1 death, but can zone all the way at the tier 2 tower. While his team starts up the Fire Giant, he's able to just hold them here. Fire Giant burning at the moment, and it's not the quickest burn in the world. Just around half HP now, and Physics is actually getting dove on by 4, make that 5, and needs to use the Fatal Strike to make it out, but the Pridwin Shield will secure his safety. Fire Giant very low now. Can anybody from the crew make it up here to steal it away? The answer is no. Instead, Arrow's going to look to get the shutdown onto Physics. He does a lot of damage, and Volg will come through to strip that first Fire Giant away, getting a big shutdown. The crew will take that win and back up.
Yeah, taking that win was a good idea. That was a 6-1 Physics DZN on the Achilles. It's a good shutdown, but also 4 members of Royal Jesters having enhanced Fire Giant on them is not a good situation to be in if you're on the crew leading this game right now. 14-11 in the kills. The gold and XP are probably showing a totally different screen, which is tied in XP and a lead going the way of the Royal Jesters pretty dominantly now, about 4K, I would say, and this is about to go to about 5 or 6K after this Gold Fury gets pulled, and it's an Oni Fury at that, which means this would be a good opportunity for them to push forward every single lane. If I'm a member of the crew, what I would go ahead and do here is let's start using ultimates really fast. Let's just use them. It doesn't matter. Use both of your Tear the Veils. Use Claimsy's Sanctified Field. Use your Geb. What's it called? Shockwave? No. What's it called? The ultimate for Geb is, well, it's Geb's ultimate. There you go. Use it as quickly as possible and land it onto as many people as possible, and you'll get kills. It's gonna lay up. It's like a layup in basketball, right? It's just gonna come to your hands. It's gonna be so easy. It's gonna be natural to you. If you can land your ultimates, it's gonna be very, very easy to win this game. On the other side, though, for Royal Jesters, just keep doing what you're doing, which is walking Physics DZN right at their heads. They're just walking at them, man. Physics doesn't care at all.
He does not. He is just marching towards them, and his damage mitigated already at 74,000. He's just been able to take anything the crew can throw at him. And once again, he is the one on the split push here. He's the one pushing this Oni wave in towards the mid lane as the rest of his squad pushes towards left. And it seems like the siege might begin here. Pierce the Veil comes out to clear the wave and slow them down. But where'd the mid-bird go? Physics doesn't need an ADC. He just absolutely deletes it with the help of that runic bomb. And Volg needs to use the World Serpent just to make it out. That mid Phoenix just didn't stand a chance against Physics just walking forward. And now it looks like they might try to re-engage again, with Physics making his way over here to the left lane. He will jump into this Phoenix line, and the taunt starts things off. He dives into the back line. Arrow in a lot of trouble. Arrow does go up to dodge the Fatal Strike. That's a good ultimate usage out of this Najah. He lands and gets the sash, and will actually get a turnaround kill onto Tangents, but Physics is too strong. He'll get the kill in return. Claimsy and Cosmic Vibes, they'll get another. Claimsy gets a double kill, and the bird does fall, but it's just Evan left on the map for the Jesters.
Run, Evan, run. Get out of here. You got a Geb behind you, a big rock, and a Jormungandr is coming around the corner. This is a problem. This is a pincher maneuver back in the old Air Force times, and it's going to be a kill for Corbin. Congratulations, Corbin, getting a big kill, because now it's free reign. You have 40 seconds to do whatever you want to on this map, but the problem is your Titan's going to be pushed by fire waves for the next couple of minutes, and you're not going to be able to do too much. But once again, Claimsy. Woo! What a play by Claimsy here. I'm getting surprised by the ult run every single time these fights occur, because the ultimates are actually right on point, and he's doing exactly what I said they should be doing, which is use your own Sanctified Field, and that is your setup, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it is. It's working out for them on that defense to be able to at least get something in trade. They get the Deicide, they get the tier 2 tower and left, so they have an avenue to push if they can win another clean team fight. Fire Giant respawning here in just about a minute. Do you think the crew is going to be safe enough to step up to this fire giant and have a full fight around it, or do they just need to send like one to try and get the steal?
I this has to be a full defense in my opinion because when that fight ended right there, it was at the tail end of the fire giant wearing off of those people. I think a Royal Jesters with fire giant right now, especially an enhanced fire giant, again with just two towers or just two objectives defending the Titan on the side of the crew is not a good situation. When you have three Phoenixes up, it's much easier to be like, okay, we can give up this fire giant, right? We don't have to worry about it. But when the Titan is standing there alone, praying that it can survive, that's a big problem, especially when Arrow's walking into this type of situation.
He does have the Geb shield for an added layer of safety. It won't take too much poke and trade. It's actually Thok who takes quite a bit of damage on the back end of that. Is below half HP and might need to back up, but the Fire Giant's respawning is not good timing. He will back up for the time being, but it doesn't even seem to matter to the Royal Jesters. They're still stepping forward.
Yeah, they don't really care, do they, whatsoever? Rollout being used here. It's trying to avoid a lot of damage coming out from Jesters. Athena taunt combined with everything that comes behind that taunt. It's not the taunt itself that really matters. You know, it's like Humbot, right? The Humbot's ult is not really about the damage. It's about the displacement that it causes, and that's the exact same thing for Athena. And there you go. That's a great scream coming out from Cleo and Cosmic Vibes. Oh, here's the engagement, though, coming from Royal Gestures.
Physics is here, and that means it's a fight. So much damage, but the Sanctified Field comes out. It's not enough to save the life of the support, but the World Serpent, it's so low. Could be a big pick onto Physics. He has the dash, but it's not enough. Volk will get that kill. Cosmic Vibes will get another kill, and they're able to defend the Fire Giant and defend their base. The Titan's taking a bit of HP loss from the minions, but the Pyromancer will go the way of the crew. They get 2 kills. They only trade out the life of their support. Can they save the mid bird, though? It's so close. They can't. Not enough, not quick enough was Arrow. And all of a sudden, that makes that trade seem a little less worth it to me.
Yeah, it's a lot less worth it because I think that Gestures are going to learn from that engagement right there and probably are not going to walk so close to a wall without knowing where Cleo is. At least that's what I'd be saying to my team if I was Royal Gestures right now. I'd be saying, hey, we need to keep an eye on Cleo right now because she just pumped out a ton of damage. Currently 4th on the leaderboard for our damage numbers, being led by Physics, but the top member for the crew, you would expect it to be Olaron right now, and it is. But right behind it is Cosmic Vibes, and ready to go is this Cleo. Is another question mark that I had in the picks and bans is why are we picking the Cleo here? And you said it's going to be a Cleo mid, and I said there's no way that's going to be a Cleo mid, and it is a Cleo mid. It's working out. It's doing a good amount of damage, and that howl, that scream, and that wall right there just showed why this pick might actually end up working in this late game. It's showing pretty well.
I mean, 3-0 and 11, you can never really complain about that slash line, regardless of what role you're in. When Cosmic Vibes is able to play this Kleena to this level, it is a definite threat that the Royal Jesters need to be aware of. We see Cosmic Vibes and Arrow on the flank around this Fire Giant. As the left Phoenix has respawned and was defended, it's just mid they need to worry about, but Cosmic Vibes throws out some damage through a wall once again. And this Jester squad, they need to be careful if they want to take another fight around this FG.
Yeah, FG is the big call here. How are you going to take this fight? It's all about being patient and taking the fight at the right time if you're the crew. And that's exactly what they've been doing. They've been waiting for the right time to take the fight. Wait for the right time where you get a little bit of poke out. You have a lot of poke ability, a lot of long range damage, especially from your Olaron and your Cleo. Just throw out a couple of abilities, get half of the health of an unsuspecting Hunbots, and then you can go in and engage a fight. And so that's what they should be doing, is taking this dance. And if they're going to be allowed to take a dance right now with a mid Phoenix down, that's perfect. Royal Gestures are giving them a gift.
Yeah, they really are, especially since the grouping has been so close to that mid lane. They're able to defend it with relative ease, making the lack of a Phoenix not as much of a problem as it could be. This is turning into quite an extended dance between these two teams. Who do you think is going to pull the trigger first?
I hope that Royal Gestures do. They did in that last fight, and I think they should again right here.
It looks like they might be grouping towards doing that. Physics, the one leading the charge like he has been all game, and they're pushing deeper into the jungle. of the crew trying to find anything they can, any sort of weakness, any sort of opening. Pierce the Veil goes through to cause them to back up. It seems like they're done with the dance. They just decided maybe they could go pull the Fire Giant or just get some backs off and reset. It's been going long enough. They probably have gold to spend, pots to buy, wards to buy up on. Seems like they danced so long they wore themselves out.
One of the things I like to bring up during these types of games, in comparison to stuff like SPL or high level play SOC, is that these dance rarely occur for as long as they have been in this game right now. Because someone like Physics DZN or FN7 will make the move very quickly upon seeing a very little slip up. It's very hard to see slip ups though when you're so far back. And that's what the crew are right now. They're so far back, so cautious about moving forward. And Royal Jesters are scared to pull a Fire Giant. I think they should just pull the Fire Giant here and force them into a bad spot and then take the fight. I mean, Physics and FN7 are so tanky. Why not?
Well, the Strife over the wall does a bit of damage, and Physics and Corbin might start things off here, but again, it's just a little bit of poke. But out of nowhere, Thokman gets a kill onto Volg. How in the world did they blow up the Yorm so fast? And the apple will land. It forces out the ult to run away for Arrow. The Sanctified Field is out, though, and it's so much damage onto FN7, who is able to dash away, but maybe not from Cosmic Vibes, who will get the kill there. Gets hit by the Strife. The beads are not enough to save you from Thokman's damage, and Cosmic Vibes will fall in trade. But the Jesters have only lost their support. They're still charging forward here towards this middle Phoenix. It has respawned, but only a couple autos from Thokman will seal the deal. It will be enough to get that middle Phoenix, but Arrow's in the backline. Arrow's trying to find anything. Physics, though, gets the kill onto him, and that could just very well be the game. Claimsy and Corbin have it all on their shoulders as the Jesters hop into the Titan room. Physics just blows up Claimsy. Nothing Corbin can do to save the life of his Ola run. And what an unfortunate time to get your second death of the game. The Titan's below half HP. And the Jesters are looking to end this set in a clean sweep. The Fear No Evil. Wait, Corbin's going huge. Corbin gets a quadra kill.
No.
Corbin saves the game. I was ready to call it. But the Geb from the crew says, not in my house.
That could be game the opposite way. That could be game the opposite way. If Cosmic Vibes comes up and goes, I don't think it will be, but I think they're acting like it's going to be because they're walking it down mid right now. 50 seconds until anyone of any importance is up on the side of Royal Jesters. It's a support again. We can't discount these supports though anymore because holy moly, just defended it. I think it's going to be a Fire Giant pull here for the crew because these two can't do much of anything, and a pause is coming out. This might actually be a tactical pause on the side of Royal Jesters because that's a throw, if I must say anything.
I literally was ready to call it. The game was over. I was like sure of it, and Corbin just goes crazy using the abilities perfectly with the help from his Titan to deal the damage. That I think you're right. I think that's a throw from the Jesters, and it's also heroism from Corbin, who strangely enough has heroism. He built it and he used it to, he used the name of it to get that defense there. I'm in shock.
Gebs don't do much damage, but Gebs with a certain relic, they really do. And if our friend Slaw could hover over a certain relic for me, there is a blink over there that causes flames to occur. And those flames do not do little damage. As you can see, leaving behind a trail of wildfire that burns enemies that pass through it for 20 plus 4 per level. True damage every 0.5 seconds for the next 4 seconds. Enemies are damaged for 1 seconds after leaving the flames. It's not just regular blink. It's not like League of Legends blink or just a level 1 blink and smite. It's a bit more dangerous, and that's probably what allowed him to get all those kills. You can see it's still on cooldown right now. And of course, Sundering Blast as well. Thank you for hovering over that because it also just reduces and also does a good amount of true damage. As you can see right there, current health and true damage, 10% lost immediately. But here we go. That pause is already gone. Enough explaining about blinks and sunders.
There is so much that could happen in this game now. 4 still dead for the next at least 20 seconds on the side of the Jesters. Everybody but Claimsy is back up for the crew. It's all going to be about where they want to go. It seems like Volg will push the mid lane a little bit, at least get those fire minions away. And they're grouping towards this right side of the map. Pyromancer's the call for the time being. Do you think they have the time to pull this fire giant safely? Because that's where they're headed.
Go for it. The only person there right now is Flippin' Ninja FN7. I think you guys can melt this, especially if you get the Ola run there, and there he is, ready to go. Throw down Sanctified Field if you need to secure this. There's no problem with that, but this could be a problem because Hachiman is here.
Yeah, multiple members from the Jesters are returning, and Physics is behind them, but Volg will get the kill onto Thokman up into the air. Arrow takes Physics, who does land and has the Fatal Strike to make it out, and Volg will get a double kill. This Jormungandr coming up huge as claims he is still here and shuts down one of the most important members on the Jesters. He will end up falling and claims he will get a double kill. Evan, though, gets 2 in trade. What a golden apple out of the Discordia. Might have just saved the entire game there.
What another save. I cannot believe it. Why would they... Grouping up? Grouping up like that against the Discordia? That's the last person that's alive? Yeah, it's a wild situation to be in. Evan just secured, yes, just defended his own Titan from falling this game. This is still a 1-0 game in their way. That was about to be a 1-1. And Volg DCing? Or what's going on here? Because he's AFK.
Trying to back, I think, and it just was not enough. Could have been a teleport or a back, but Evan says thank you very much for standing still. And we'll get another kill. The Pyromancer should go the way of the crew, but not as impactful as it was in earlier stages of the game. Look at the Titan health of the crew. At what point do you just try to backdoor if you're the Jesters, assuming you can keep more than one alive at any given time?
There's a problem. There's a problem with the Royal Jesters. The problem is you don't have a Horus on your team. You don't have a Giannis on your team. You don't have even an Ares on your team. And Ares can help you with creating chaos with the other 5 members of the enemy team. So, crazy call here, though, to pull his Fire Giant. And I know it's a crazy call because I see Thoughtman Jones walking over that ward with an Athena ult on top of him. This is a great situation for Royal Jesters because 30 seconds until Volg is back up, and Volg just got a double kill, and Middle Phoenix is just about to come back up. So this is the Fire Giant for Royal Jesters. Not a good situation for the crew after just about winning the game off of a Fire Giant fight.
Fire Giant very low here, burning quickly, and it seems like it will go to the Royal Jesters to add to their game plan of how they're going to be able to take this game and thus take the set, because it's so close. It's been so close for them before. And now with EFG on all 5 members again, they'll take this tier 2 tower in solo, and there's not a lot standing between them and the set win.
Yeah, this right Phoenix is probably it, in the middle and left. They like to clear their Phoenixes, and I expect them to do it again. Let's get an engagement here from either Physics DZN or FN7, and here it is.
FN7 steps into the Phoenix, pops the bubble of the Geb, but then backs up. It's a 3-2 split, as in the mid lane, the jungle uses the Fear No Evil, and Arrow forced to back away there, but it's bought some space. It's bought some time. They haven't been able to step up to the Phoenix yet. The mid bird still stands, and crucially, the whole time these Phoenixes are up, that Titan is able to heal, and it'll make it just that much harder for the Jesters to finally crack this space fully and get the win. It seems like they're going to reset and think of a new way to do this.
They have time. They have plenty of time in this game right now. They just got Fire Giant. It's on them for another 2.5 minutes. So you're not too worried if you're on the side of Royal Jesters. Just go ahead and get what you need. Get these buffs. Yeah, this is important. It's not as big as it used to be when you would have, if you had what was it, totem control or whatever it was in the lane, you got enhanced buffs. That was super cool last season. But in this season, it is not the exact same. Here we go with the 4 members at least of Royal Jesters pulling this Primal Fury. Get some gold on your belt. Get some 3,000k pots. Get some 3k pots on your waist. 3,000k would be ridiculous, by the way. Whew, that'd be a lot of money. But 3k pots on your waist, and let's push down the left side of this map. Perfect choice for a better Phoenix to push. Make sure you don't get hit by Cleo's Tear the Veil, and you'll be in a better position than you were the last time. Achilles backing here, probably going to teleport back in.
Looks like they are going to try and siege this most important Phoenix. Physics is TPing back into the middle lane to join his jungler. Another 3-2 split incoming for the time being. The Jesters are playing this very safe, very smart. After what happened the last time they stepped into the throne room, I can't say I blame them. You want to make sure this goes your way. correctly here the second time around. So they're slowing things down, trying to find the opening. They will step a little bit towards mid lane as they have a wave there to start beating down this mid bird. But Volg is there, and it's actually an engage from the crew stepping out of the Phoenix. But Golden Apple will force them back a little bit. A great strife does so much damage, and Thokman will get that kill onto Arrow, but Volg's trying to turn one back around in the backline. Meanwhile, under the Phoenix, it's Corbin who's in a lot of trouble, but here comes the Sanctified Field of Claimsy doing a lot to make sure they do not get to step in here for free, but it's not enough. They are backing up the runic bomb used just to make sure that Physics cannot come after him. That's how scary this Achilles is. Left side Phoenix falls, mid Phoenix falls. Corbin close to falling as well, but he's so tanky on this. Geb gets stunned out. Corbin fighting for his life to have a chance to defend like he did last time. He will make it out safely, and the Jesters are at least playing it safe for now.
Just get this Phoenix. Yeah, I'm about to say, there's no way you're going to get this Titan right now with 4 people up and Cosmic Vibe still holding on to some of the Tear of the Veils, possibly coming back up. And this is a good engagement right here from Corbin.
It is indeed, and it's low health bars for Physics, who's forced to back up. Both frontliners very low, and it seems like the crew have done enough to stay in the game for now. But once again, 2 Phoenixes down, the base is open, but they're able to stay in the game. How much longer can the crew continue to get away with this?
As long as the Jesters allow them to, is my opinion. That was only 1 kill in that entire fight. Arrow was the only person who fell. That's crazy to me because so much happened, but like only 1 person fell. It has to be more than that. You have to get more kills, or you just have to clear all 3 Phoenixes and give them no chance to, be able to take any objective. Or it's just like last game, right? Because Royal Jesters last game took all 3 Phoenixes, which gave them the opportunity to take a fight wherever they wanted to. The only safe space for the crew was in that Titan room. And so if you can force that to be the situation and you get that 1 pick onto Arrow like they did in that last fight, it's game. It's over. It's 1 pick at this point that's gonna change this entire game. And if you're Royal Jesters, just walk into the Titan room, do a fear no evil, create that space as we've been talking about this entire game, and you've got a game on your hands where it's going to be a 2-0. It's going to be your game.
Yeah, they are in the driver's seat of this game. And with the Fire Giant respawning once again here, we can see that the crew are forced to defend their lanes. No one really able to step up. The Fire Giant burning quickly already at around half HP and falling even faster. No one from the crew is even going to bother to step up. They have to defend too hard. And I mean, I can't say I blame them. It feels bad to give up EFG, but their base defenses have been absolutely solid.
Yeah,
you just
really good.
Trust in yourself to do it one more time.
So good. And I think that they've been landing their abilities. That's one of the most important things about playing Smite in general, but especially during defenses. You need to be able to land those important abilities. I've already named them a lot this game, but the specific ones are knockups from Geb, especially, and shields from Geb are really important for your team to survive. And Cosmic landing these like this is great. Oh, a lot of damage.
So much burst coming out of the Kleena here in the late game. And this could be the last chance the crew have on defense. There's just 1 Phoenix left, and the wave steps into the bird right now, but it seems like the Jesters don't quite want to go in yet. They do have the ability to wait this out. Fire minions are pushing into the throne room as I speak, and will start to deal damage to the Titans. Someone at some point will have to go back and deal with them, and it will be Arrow.
Yeah, go. Get in there. Okay, there you go. The fight has started, and Clamsy is the target. Good choice by them, and the ultimate coming out from the World Serpent.
And Physics will have to back up here. Gets the Athena World Serpent, though, as you mentioned, pulling people away and up into the Windfire wheels. Arrow goes. He pulls up Physics, who takes a lot of damage, lands into the Pierce of Veil, and has to Fatal Strike out. But a good strife will turn around a lot of it. The Horrific comes out from FN7, but Claimsy will get a kill onto the Hunbats. And once again, this crew team is just unshakable. They will not fall here on the base defense. They have their left side Phoenix come back up, but Claimsy is such a big part of that defense, and he will end up falling, and this could be it. The Jesters once again charging forward. The right side Phoenix is low. The right side Phoenix falls. All 3 Phoenixes down. Just Claimsy is down on the side of the crew, and a good taunt in will get the beads out of the Kalina. They're trying to end this right now. Arrow's low, Arrow falls, Stockman gets that kill. The Titan will be so low here in the middle lane. Cosmic Vibe turns around one. There's no way. Okay, the Titan falls on the side of the Jesters, but the crew, what a defense over and over again.
Oh, wow. There was an opening there for the crew to defend that, but 57-minute game, 58-minute game. They were defending for 20 minutes of that game, and I'll let you go ahead and take a look at this and point me where you want me to look because there's a lot to look at.
Yeah, there is so much. I feel like we have to bring up Claimsy on this Ola run. We talked about how it was iffy when it got picked up, but 13, 3, and 6 with this build and his positioning, he was just able to get so much work done.
Why didn't it work out though? I'll ask that question to myself because they still don't end up getting this win. This is a 2-0 in the way of
Yeah.
Royal Jesters, and why didn't they get this win? Claims he's nothing to blame. Tons of damage, 57k, 3k ahead of Cosmic Vibes, which is not that much, which means you are pumping out damage from your mid and ADC. Where was the issue? Probably gonna take a look at the scoreline. 2-11 on Arrow is probably not the situation that you want to be with on the crew. And because Arrow and the beads were coming out really well from Royal Jesters, you could not take someone up with Windfire Wheels. Sorry, I'm mumbling things now at this point because that was such a long game. We've been talking for so long, but it was not adding up. They were not doing as Dilo and my another co-caster of mine would ever say. PIMDOS. PIMDOS is the order of operations in math. And if you cannot do order of operations properly, then it's not going to work out. Arrow had to get someone up in the air, and that had to be one of the biggest initiations of every single fight. It was not working out that way at all.
Yeah, I just wasn't able to find the value that Navnaja can bring. And I feel like such a big part of that was because of physics on this Achilles, who just was able to walk at them. He had 6 deaths, but it never felt like it was anything but his game to play. Just, I mean, 156,000 damage mitigated, even in a 60-minute game, is still a crazy number. And he just had so much setup and damage for his squad.
Yeah. Evan. Evan's only 4-4, by the way.
Yeah.
does not really show exactly what those numbers show, which is the highest in this game, as you just said. 60k damage. 48k coming out from Thoughtman Jones. Thoughtman, in my opinion, was a little more of a back player that game, kind of just there for support in some ways, using that eagle eye from a mile away and getting some fresh damage onto people to create kills for Physics DZN. Once again, Physics DZN's number are a little bit misleading as well because most of his kills are going to come from securing executes, and that's exactly what he did. He also got a triple kill pretty early in the game off of a double execute into a secure off of his stun. So, really well played here by Royal Jesters. They played that CC kit, and the crew tried to counter it this game a lot better than they did last game. Almost every one of those guys besides... no, it's again, I lied. Claimsy and Cosmic Vibes both did not have CC immune ults. I think that would have helped them a lot in this game, though.
Yeah, it could be something to think about in the future if you're the crew, to kind of have that anti-comp, that counter-comp mentality, especially when you're facing someone like the Royal Jesters, who retain their streak of being undefeated here in the Sparta division, now 4-0. The crew dropping to 2-2, but showing that they can hang with the people at the top. They are a force to be reckoned with. The Jesters just getting the better end of it today. But what a set. I mean, that was absolutely insane. And that's going to do it for us here on the OSL, on the Olympic Smite League. Once again, I have been Dr. Shrew, joined by Phoenix with Soulslaw on production. We thank you for joining us for an amazing set between these two teams, and we will see you all on Sunday for the regularly scheduled games.